Thank you very much. You may take your seats. Honorable delegates, before I proceed, may I take this opportunity, welcome the Minister, the Deputy Ministers in our midst, the Premier of Gauteng, who has joined in through the virtual platform, the MECs, special delegates and permanent delegates, SALGA representatives. I have been informed that there will be no notices of motions or motions without notice. We now proceed to the first, second and the third order, which will be dealt with jointly, which is the policy debate on budget vote 28, police, policy debate on budget vote 24, the independent police investigative directorate, and lastly, the policy debate on budget vote 21, which is also the independent police investigative directorate appropriate bill, which is bill 77. I now call upon the acting Minister of Police to open the debate for us. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee, Honorable Members of the National Council of Provinces, Deputy Ministers, MECs responsible for community safety, the Acting National Commissioner of the South African Police Service who hasn't yet arrived, and the leadership of the South African Police Service, the heads of entities. It is my honor to present the 2026-7 budget to account to the National Council of Provinces for the work we are doing together to build safer communities across our country. There is a lot going on in our country at the moment. I would like to address a few important matters before I deal with the financial and budgetary issues. I want to reiterate what the President said about rising anger against illegal immigration. The government agrees that illegal immigration is unacceptable and that strong measures are required to strengthen border control and enforce our immigration laws. Our country's sovereignty and the rule of law is not negotiable. But I must make myself clear also that we condemn violent protest action targeting people from other countries. We are part of a continental and global economic system, and when images of people being harassed and threatened in our streets goes viral across the region, our continent and the world, it harms our reputation and our national interest. It undermines our chances to grow our economy and create jobs. We need to cooperate and build trust in our region to address organized criminal networks and who bring drugs into our country and that traffic people across our borders. Only the police and the Border Management Agency are allowed to arrest people for immigration offenses. You cannot build a country that effectively implements the rule of law by breaking those laws. As much as the police are directed to enforce the law against those who are in our country illegally, a point on which I also want to be emphatic, they are directed to do the same against anyone who acts violently or attacks people during protest action. The police are already overstretched, and the task of tackling crime and adding to their workload makes us all worse off. The police already work under difficult and often dangerous conditions. Most of you are aware that numerous South African police generals and brigadiers have been suspended or dismissed. Holding people to account is part of our police reset agenda that I recently explained before the National Assembly. The most recent suspensions announced by the Acting National Commissioner are pursuant to an internal investigation, forensic investigation within the South African Police Service. The Acting National Commissioner and I are fully aligned in pursuing consequence management within the South African Police Service consistently. We must bear in mind, however, that most police members are focused on the job at hand, whether it's confronting dangerous criminals who threaten our communities or by providing their assistance to our people wherever they are in need. Their contribution, I must say, to the members of the South African Police Service is highly appreciated by us all, and we all stand with you. I also want to take a moment to recognize and show appreciation to those police members who have been killed or injured in the line of duty. For example, on the 30th of April this year, Captain Louis Nel and Sergeant Madlanga Commission, attached to crime intelligence in KwaZulu-Natal, were attacked by armed men while on duty in Verulam. Captain Nel died immediately and Sergeant Commission succumbed to his injuries 25 days later. Many of you will also be aware that at 2 a.m. on Monday morning, a South African police constable was attacked with an axe and seriously injured while standing outside the police station in Delft. These attacks are unacceptable, and these are the people who keep us safe. Now on to the topic that is more uplifting. I also want to extend our best wishes to our national football team, Bafana, as they wait to participate in the FIFA World Cup. We are but one of 48 countries taking part in the 2026 World Cup starting on Thursday. Many of you will remember our own World Cup. The first game was also against Mexico City, and I hope that we will get a better result this time. On that occasion, we drew. Honourable members, the police budget is not only about rands and cents. It's about whether a child in Lusikisiki can walk to school safely, whether a woman in Toyando can return home from work without fear, and whether a business in eThekwini or Ekurhuleni can invest and create jobs with confidence that they will be protected. As my speech in the National Assembly on the 19th of May focused primarily on our reset agenda, I will not repeat this topic today. Rather, I will briefly reflect on the latest provincial crime stats, emphasize the central role of MINMAX. I also want to highlight the importance of the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy, where the provincial governments and local governments have a critical role, brief the House on the development of our organized crime and strategy and current efforts to tackle organized crime, and highlight the importance of community participation in our efforts to deal with crime and violence. In the 2025 to 26 quarter statistics, which are released last month, can confirm three things. First, the downward trend in most major contract and property crimes has largely been sustained over the last 2 years. In many provinces, murder and attempted murder have indeed decreased, and we continue to see reductions in burglaries and all categories of aggravated robbery. Second, the picture, however, remains uneven. Some districts and stations, especially in dense urban nodes and some rural corridors, are still experiencing unacceptably high levels of violent crime. Third, we must understand that crime stats are not a scientific measure of the crime burden we face. I'm aware that decreases in most categories of crime have triggered a lot of debate. I'm also aware that seldomly is there a single reason for changes of such magnitude. Most crime takes place at local level, and the factors driving crime up and down can differ from place to place. However, there seems to be consensus that we are indeed seeing a national decrease in violent crime, which has been sustained over the last 2 years. I am of the view that better targeted policing operations, along with many ongoing community efforts to improve safety, are possibly having a positive effect. I therefore welcome the debate that we are beginning to have in the country as to why crime is decreasing for the first time in decades, and look forward to the results of studies that provide us with more detailed insights as to why this is indeed the case. Nationally, the total number of violent crimes reported to the police decreased by 4.6%, and the number of murders fell by 9.5%, and a significant 20% decrease over the last 2 years. This was driven by declines in 8 provinces, but particularly Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape and Eastern Cape, that collectively recorded an 81% of all murders. The Northwest Province was a major outlier, with murder cases increasing by 18.9% from 228 to 271. As soon as I'm able, together with the deputy ministers, I'm planning to visit the Northwest Province. The critical point is this: the crime situation is improving in some important respects, but the levels of crime and violence are still very high. From a policing point of view, we will keep focusing to further build on these gains. However, it will take more than policing alone to ensure that we achieve the levels of safety that will enable our people to feel safe and our country to grow economically. I'll now touch on some of what we need to do to achieve the vision that we have and to sustain this trend of improvement. The National Council of Provinces appreciates that achieving community safety is not only a national function. It must be an objective that is co-governed across provinces, including local government. Our police MINMAC therefore brings together the Minister of Police, the Deputy Police Ministers, Premiers, the MECs responsible for community safety, and the SAPS leadership on the central platform to achieve intergovernmental alignment. We held an important meeting in February this year, at which we adopted clear terms of reference for future MINMACs and agreed to hold at least 3 meetings this year to track our progress. We also agreed that there must be greater alignment with local government, and we're looking at how to achieve this. Our goal is that no province should be working in isolation, and no national initiative should arrive at a province in surprise. We therefore discussed our objectives to make measurable difference in the 50 high priority precincts across the country. From the side of the Ministry and the South African Police Service, we will be closely monitoring the resourcing and performance of the police stations that serve as these precincts. But we also need to address the factors that contribute to high crime in these precincts. If we only react to crime after it happens, we will never win. That is why we have adopted the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy, a whole of government and whole society framework that addresses the social and economic facts. The Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy that recognizes that violence is fueled by poverty, inequality, alcohol and substance abuse, unsafe environments, weak and early childhood development, broken schooling, and a culture of patriarchy and impunity. Prevention therefore requires the combined efforts of the police, social development, education, health and human settlements, transport, local government, and community participation. At national level, we are coordinating policy norms and funding frameworks, but the real implementation power lies in the provinces and municipalities. Chairperson, our democracy faces a serious threat from organized crime, gangs, extortion mafias, drug syndicates, illegal mining networks, trafficking rings, and corruption cartels are undermining the state, the economy, and the rule of law. In response, the President highlighted the importance of tackling organized crime, given that it has become an existential threat to our country. Already, the South African Police Service has developed Operation Ukubusa to focus on gang violence, illegal mining, and other forms of organized crime with the support of the South African National Defence Force and other agencies. Furthermore, we will present a comprehensive organized crime strategy to the Cabinet this year, fully funded through CARA funds. This will enable better coordination and information sharing across government departments, the private sector, and civil society to address this threat. We cannot make adequate headway against crime without active support and assistance from our communities. It is on the ground that people know that where the main safety risks are and who is the most responsible for committing crime in their communities. I want, therefore, to commend the many community-based safety initiatives taking place across the country. However, these initiatives against crime and lawlessness, including immigration-related offences, community policing forums have a role, but they must respect the distinction between the role of the police and the role of the community. A good example here in Cape Town is the work undertaken by C4, undertaking to address gang violence. This is a community-based alliance of community-based organizations. This network of community activists and academics are working with the police in the gang-affected areas to create local safety initiatives. One of the most visible ways in which citizens experience safety in the presence is the presence of the eyes and ears on the ground. For this reason, we are working to develop a national and provincial patroller program. To achieve this, the Civilian Secretariat for the Police Service are working on national norms and training curricula for patrollers as a national program to be implemented in the provinces. The provinces have been asked to consider options for providing stipends, equipment, and training for patrollers in high-risk districts, hopefully with national co-financing and technical support. This is a program I'm fully committed to, honourable members. I believe, just think about having a national program across the country implemented by provinces to create a vehicle for community participation and agency.
Okay.
This will help.
Honourable Minister, if you may pause a bit. Honourable members on virtual platform, can you kindly mute yourself as you are disrupting the sitting? Please mute yourself. Sorry about that, Prof. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson, with much appreciation. So this will help to improve school safety, transport interchanges and business district, support visible policing in high crime places, and strengthen early warning by reporting suspicious activity and emerging risks. We will use the MINMAC and the NCOP as the House of Provinces to ensure that this program is not a temporary project, but a sustainable pillar of our community-centered approach. Chairperson and honourable members, the South African Police Service 2026-27 budget aims to invest further in improving community safety across the country. But budgets and strategies alone will not make South Africa safe. Although the question how we allocate our resources to achieve our objectives is critical and how we measure that performance. We will make a difference together. What will make a difference together is whether we can effectively use platforms like the MINMAC and the National Council of Provinces to drive joint action. Provinces must take ownership of crime prevention programs through the implementation of the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy, and we must match enforcement by the police with prevention and statistics with the lived experience of our people. The Q4 stats for 2025-26 show that we can bend the curve of crime and violence. We are not powerless in addressing issues of safety and security. The task before us now is to lock in the gains that we've achieved over the last 2 years, confront stubborn challenges that continue to bedevil our communities, and ensure that every province, every district, and every community feels the impact of our collective effort. I look forward to working with this House, with the MECs, and with our partners in communities to ensure that this budget becomes a concrete manifestation of our commitment to improve community safety in all provinces, in all communities across our country. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Honourable Acting Minister. We're now proceeding to the next speaker on my list, Honourable Mananiso.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon, honourable members and members on the call. I would like to extend my greetings to SAPS, IPID, and CSPS leadership. Chairperson, we meet today to consider the budget of SAPS, CSPS, and IPID, departments which play a critical role in ensuring the safety of our citizens, as well as advancing the mandates of ensuring accountability, integrity, and rooting out corruption. This vote is being considered at a defining moment, Chairperson, for policing in South Africa. The findings of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee have laid bare deep-rooted challenges within our policing institutions. These findings have highlighted weaknesses in accountability, governance, operational effectiveness, and integrity, while exposing the extent to which corruption and poor consequence management have eroded public confidence in law enforcement agencies. The task before us is therefore not simply to allocate resources to the policing sector, Minister. It is to ensure that these resources support a program of reform that restores professionalism, strengthens accountability, and rebuilds public trust between the police and the communities they serve. Honourable Chairperson, central to this reform program is the implementation of the recommendations arising from both both Madlanga Commission and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. The Civilian Secretariat for Police Service has acknowledged the commissions of inquiry have exposed serious operational inefficiencies and systemic weaknesses that have negatively affected public confidence in SAPS. The Secretariat has committed itself to monitoring the implementation of this recommendation as part of a broader policing reform agenda. Honorable Chairperson and fellow South Africans, similarly, SAPS has identified the implementation of these recommendations as a strategic priority over the medium term. The committee welcomes these commitments and further welcomes the decision by Acting Minister to establish a dedicated task team to investigate referrals arising from the Madlanga Commission. We are encouraged by the progress being made, and we will continue to exercise oversight over investigations and arrest flowing from this particular process. However, effective reform requires robust monitoring, measurable outcomes, and clear accountability. For these reasons, Honorable Chairperson, the committee recommends that both the Civilian Secretariat and IPID strengthen their monitoring of recommendations arising from the Madlanga Commission and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, and produces regular reports on implementation progress to the committee. Chairperson, one of the strongest themes emerging from our oversight work is the urgent need to strengthen accountability and consequence management within SAPS. The South African Police Service has informed the committee that it is reviewing SAPS 2016 disciplinary regulations and broader disciplinary systems to strengthen professional conduct, discipline, and accountability throughout the organization. SAPS has also committed to introducing measures that will strengthen accountability among senior management and improve consequence management across all levels of the services. The policing reform agenda includes measures aimed at identifying and removing members involved in corruption, criminal activity, and serious misconduct. To support this effort, SAPS has committed to strengthening vetting processes, integrity testing, and lifestyle audits. The committee welcomes these initiatives, but notes that public confidence will only be restored when communities see tangible consequences for wrongdoing. Minister, we are welcoming the community-centric approach. The committee therefore recommends comprehensive reporting and vetting outcomes, lifestyle audits, and disciplinary action taken against officials implicated in misconduct or corruption. The committee emphasized the need to revive regular updates to understand the trends and outcomes of the lifestyle audits. Chairperson, professionalization remains one of the most important pillars of policing reform. SAPS has committed itself to strengthening ethical leadership, organizational integrity, accountability, and discipline. These commitments are supported by recruitment initiatives, digital policing reforms, the rollout of body-worn cameras, and the introduction of digital case and docket management system. These interventions have the potential to modernize policing, improve transparency, and enhance operations effectiveness. At the same time, the committee remains concerned about high vacancy rates, Minister, shortages on specialized personnel, and operational capacity constraints that continue to affect service delivery. We therefore recommend the accelerated filling of critical vacancies, the implementation of comprehensive workforce capacitation strategy, the fast-tracking of body-worn cameras and digital case management system, and strong support for community policing forum, as we have alluded, Minister. Professionalization must also extend to the institutions responsible for oversight and accountability. In this regard, IPID has informed the committee that combating corruption remains a strategic priority over the 2026 medium-term expenditure framework period. The Directorate has aligned its work with the IPID Amendment Act of 2024, strengthening its focus on investigating corruption and serious offences involving members of SAPS and municipal police services. To support this mandate, IPID is strengthening investigation quality assurance processes, introducing specialized training and on procurement and corruption investigations, and establishing a dedicated forensic investigation unit. The Directorate has set a target of making 15 corruption investigations decision-ready within 90 days during the 2026-2027 financial year, contributing a medium-term target of 45 corruption investigations over the MTEF period. In addition, IPID is committed to reducing investigation backlogs, improving investigative quality, strengthening forensic capabilities, and advancing digital transformation initiatives. The committee welcomes these commitments and the progress already made in reducing backlog. We therefore recommend a comprehensive backlog reduction strategy, Honorable Minister, strengthen specialized investigative capacity, improved victim support services, enhanced resources mobilization, and stronger oversight arrangement between IPID and SAPS. To ensure stability in leadership, the committee recommended the following. The Ministry of Police should, within 90 days, finalize and conclude the recruitment and appointment process for the permanent executive director of IPID to ensure institutional stability and strengthening leadership accountability. Chairperson, effective policing require effective oversight. The CSPS plays a critical role in ensuring that policing institutions remain accountable to the public they serve. The Secretariat has committed itself to monitoring police conduct and integrity, overseeing the implementation of IPID recommendations, monitoring compliance with Domestic Violence Act, strengthening complaints management system, and tracking the implementation of the recommendation arising from the Madlanga Commission. Members, I want to urge you, because most of the people, they don't know the role of CSPS. After we pass this budget, it's upon you to invite them to come and do outreach programs in your areas. Importantly, the Secretariat has also indicated that legislative reforms may be required to strengthen the enforceability of its recommendation. The committee agrees that strong oversight institutions require an appropriate legislative framework. The committee therefore supports the efforts to strengthen the oversight mandate of the Secretariat and to enhance ability to monitor implementation across the policing sector. The Secretariat has also informed the committee that it is strengthening civilian oversight through enhanced monitoring and evaluation of police station performance, service delivery, operational effectiveness, and compliance with legislation in police. As part of this effort, 140 priority police stations have been identified to focus monitoring and oversight interventions. The committee welcomes this initiative, but emphasizes that improvement must ultimately be reflected in the quality of services experienced by our communities. We therefore recommend that police stations be adequately equipped to support investigations, particularly those relating to gender-based violence and femicide and sexual offenses, while also addressing forensic and investigations backlog that continue to delay justice for victims. Chairperson, procurement reform has emerged as another critical component of policing reform. Many of the concerns raised in Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee relate directly to procurement failures, weak control, and corruption risk within supply chain management system. In response, SAPS has committed to reviewing procurement and supply chain management processes to improve accountability, strengthen integrity, and reduce opportunities for corruption. The acting national commissioner is implementing a far-reaching overhaul of procurement system in partnership with the Government Technical Advisory Center within National Treasury. This reforms process seeks to modernize procurement system, improve transparency, strengthen oversight, and ensure that operational resources reach those who need them most. This work particularly important because effective policy depends on the properly equipped police officers. The department has prioritized investment in police vehicles, mobile police stations, bullet-resistant vests, uniforms, and operational equipment. However, the committee remains concerned about the persistent vehicle repair delays, of which this one is always advocated by Honorable Mogai, based on the experience that Northern Cape is experiencing with regards to the delay of the vehicle. Shortages of specialized personnel and inadequate operational resources that continue to undermine service delivery. Due to our oversight, visit, and engagement in the provinces, the issue of reliable vehicle has come up quite strongly, and the committee therefore recommends that SAPS should implement a decentralized vehicle maintenance and repair system. Honorable Minister, even today I got an SMS from one of the police officers about issues of vehicle. So we must move with speed in ensuring that there's order there and there's procurement. In conclusion, the challenges confronting the policing sector are significant, but they are not beyond our ability to address. The commitment made by SAPS, the Civilian Secretariat to Police Service, and IPID provide an important foundation for reform. However, success will ultimately be measured not by plans and strategies, but by implementation, accountability, and results. The committee recommendation seeks to strengthen governance, integrity, professionalization, oversight, and service delivery across the policing sector. If implemented effectively, they will contribute to building public trust, restoring confidence in law enforcement institutions, and ensuring that our policing system can protect communities and uphold to the rule of law. While I'm having 1 minute, Honorable Chairperson, I think it is important just to share that this process, it is important, Honorable Zulu and Honorable Gerik, because without budget, without APPs, we cannot measure the work that we want those who have executive authority to do. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Order, honorable members. Honorable Mugai.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Acting Minister, the Honorable Deputy Ministers Abushelo and Matale, Honorable Members, fellow South Africans, good day. A few days ago, our Deputy Chief Whip, Honorable Batoli Nodada, described the terror he felt when he was robbed at knife point. It is a fear that is far too familiar to South Africans, who are the everyday victims of extraordinary violent levels of crime in our beloved country. The most recent crime statistics confirms that in just 3 months, 5,181 people were murdered and 9,782 rapes were reported. While organized and violent crime continues to tighten its grip through carjackings, kidnappings, extortion, and commercial crime. For me as a man of faith, it is particularly horrifying to note the sexual crimes reported on religious premises. Do we really have no safe space in this country anymore? When crime happens, you need a properly resourced and professional police service to protect your rights, to catch the criminals, and to secure their convictions. Cleaning up our communities and keeping our streets safe requires a holistic and whole of society approach. It is simple, Acting Minister. Catch, convict, clean up. We appreciate the steps being taken to achieve this whole of society approach, particularly the inclusion of new indicators for the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services, which aims to strengthen the implementation of the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy and to secure a professionalized, transformed South African police service. Of course, the inclusion of new indicators must be backed by effective, efficient, and enthusiastic implementation. It is not enough to read on paper or to debate it here. Our constituencies must feel it in their communities. Our mothers and sisters must feel safer in their homes. Our children must feel safer in their schools. This is how you improve community policing relations. And we know the enhanced partnership through the Community in Blue initiative. And I think, Honorable Minister, you spent a lot of time detailing it, and you're committed in your commitment to this initiative. However, Honorable Acting Minister, the funding and resourcing of the Community Policing Forum is something that should receive more urgent and budget than it is. I'm therefore eagerly awaiting the October 31st deadline for the SAPS to finalize a framework on CPF stipends and resource allocation. This is something that also comes a lot in our committee engagements on oversights, that the CPS must be thoroughly resourced and strengthened. We must also acknowledge the dedication of those police officers who are devoted to achieving this sense of safety. Testimony at the Madlanga Commission highlights the extreme conditions under which ordinary officers work to catch criminals and to secure their convictions so that our communities can be cleaned up. Our country's appreciation can be seen in the support for Warrant Officer Carl Sander, with more than $500,000 raised with the space of a week to replace this much-discussed coffee machine. And that's a lot of coffee. Clearly, it's not about the coffee machine. It is about the nation rallying behind an honest cop. From a oversight visits, including to my home province in the Northern Cape, I can attest to the fact that there are many diligent men and women in blue. If you're not for their tireless commitment and willingness to sacrifice their bodies, their mental health, and their well-being for the safety of our communities, our crime statistics would be a lot worse. Unfortunately, the Democratic Alliance is deeply concerned about the rotten apples in the South African police service. It is thus important that lifestyle audits on all senior officers and those identified are expedited. With the revelations coming out from the Madlanga Commission, this process must be given the necessary attention it deserves. Further to this, there are cases where ordinary citizens are let down by the same police service meant to protect them. This is where the independent police directorate is meant to step up and prevent further violence or harm from befalling victims of crime. I understand that resource allocation for IPID must meet specific criteria around case intake, the size of the province and distances traveled, the number of investigators, and the nature of cases under investigation, and any backlog that may exist. But I'm not convinced that these criteria are ideally structured to meet the needs of rural and impoverished provinces and communities, particularly those in the Northern Cape who do not have the digital access and who cannot afford to travel great distances. I therefore welcome the opening of an additional office in Uppington, which will make IPID far more accessible to the residents of the region without diminishing the importance of this office. I must emphasize that this means that there are now only 2 officers serving the province, which covers a third of the country. And I'm glad Honorable Mananiso, our chair, also made reflection about the demographics of the Northern Cape. It may seem reasonable and fiscally prudent to claim that the number of cases or the size of the backlog does not support additional resource allocation to the Northern Cape. But how can we rest assured that the number of cases and the backlog are a real, true reflection of communities' experiences with the police, if IPID is not readily accessible to everyone in every corner of the country? Yes, the Northern Cape has the smallest provincial population. Does that make our residents any less worthy of protection or service? Of course not. But I'm proud to say that the party that I represent, the Democratic Alliance, has the strongest strategies for catching criminals, securing their convictions, and cleaning up our communities, which is done when SAPS secures convictions through accurate processing and adherence to processes, protocols, laws, and regulations. This, Honorable Chairperson, will result in setting up slam dunk cases for prosecutors. This is how we make South Africans feel safer. When we catch, we convict, and we clean up. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mukai. We're now proceeding to Honorable Mamabolo, who's on the virtual platform. Over to you, Honorable Mamabolo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I don't know if you can
We
see
can
me.
hear you. We can see you, Honorable Mamabolo. You may proceed. Thank you.
With your permission, Chair, can I close the camera to optimize the quality? Thank you very much. Now, Chair, let me start by greeting you and all the honorable members in the House. Special greetings to the Honorable, to the Acting Minister, Prof, and to all the MECs, premiers, and the entire leadership on the call and in the House and the people of our province and the country. I want to start firstly conveying the sincere apologies of our Honorable Premier, Premier Panyaza Lesufi, and hope that the House will accept the apology. It is indeed a great honor to present the NCOP Community Safety Budget Vote to this Honorable House. This budget vote is taking place during the historically significant month of June 2026, which marks the 50th anniversary of the Youth Month. This is the month during which our nation stops to reflect on the enduring historical symbolism of the cataclysmic events of June 1976. This was a key moment in our nation history. This was the moment which shook the very foundations of the apartheid state. It was the moment during which the youth of our country rose to the challenge of their day. In doing so, the youth of June 1976 responded to the proposition of Frantz Fanon that, open quote, each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it, close quote. Today, history has noted that the generation of June 1976 has fulfilled its mission. Therefore, during this 50th anniversary celebration of this pivotal turning point in our nation's history, we are called upon to strengthen our resolve to make a difference in the lives of the youth of our country. History calls upon us to redouble our efforts in ensuring that the doors of learning and culture are flung wide open, that there are jobs for all, and there is safety and security for all, amongst others. Honorable members, the mission of the Gauteng Department of Community Safety is to improve public safety in the province. Crime remains the most pressing social crisis in Gauteng, threatening public safety, economic stability, and investor confidence. Within the context of our provincial plans, the Department of Community Safety is committed to make the safety and security of the residents of Gauteng a palpable reality. I am pleased to report on the key achievements in the 2025-2026 financial year. The department achieved 91% of the planned targets for the year under review. The department's strategic focus in response to the provincial priorities included the following: the deployment of law enforcement in the central business districts towards the revitalization of the CBDs into vibrant economic hubs, implementing school safety programs with emphasis on identified high-risk schools, improving policing and community safety efforts, which included monitoring police conduct, strengthening policing and visibility through the deployment of Gauteng traffic wardens as force multipliers across the province, investing in modern technologies and advancing social crime prevention programs, strengthening the implementation of the 6 pillars of strategic plan on gender-based violence and femicide, improving road safety towards the reduction of road crashes and fatalities. Honorable members, on deploying law enforcement in the CBD towards the revitalization of the CBDs into vibrant economic hubs, would like to say that the provincial government has revitalized central business districts definitely into centers for economic activity, and we have deployed law enforcement officers throughout the province to enhance police visibility in these areas. Officers were stationed at Charlotte Matlake Hospital to safeguard state-owned infrastructure, prevent motor vehicle theft, protect patients and healthcare professionals in alignment with the integrated crime prevention plan 10-point strategy. In addition, the Gauteng traffic wardens under the supervision of the South African Police Service and Gauteng Traffic Police have been assigned to the Park Station precinct as part of joint initiatives with PRASA. The department subscribes to the notion that schools and institutions of learning must be safe spaces that promote social responsibility and constitutional values. To this end, the department continued to implement safety interventions at schools. We conducted 522 school safety interventions, and 11 interventions were conducted at institutions of higher learning. We have also conducted 8,947 crime prevention operations at identified high-risk schools. Through the Provincial Secretariat, community safety is mandated to conduct oversight over law enforcement agencies within the province. This includes focusing on monitoring police actions and ensuring they adhere to legal and ethical standards. Furthermore, the oversight police performance is aimed at improving policing as a contribution to the fight against crime and lawlessness. In pursuance of this mandate, the department carried out 145 unannounced and 804 announced visits at police stations. These visits involved a thorough assessment of the performance of both the SAPS and the Metropolis departments across our metro. The recommendations emanating from these visits were discussed with the leadership at the respective police stations, while others are escalated to the provincial commissioner as well as discussed at MINMEC. The department advanced police accountability through Gauteng information on police performance systems sessions, engaging management teams from priority police stations identified as contributors to high crime rates within the province. The department has also ensured improved policing, especially on intensified police efforts, resulting in a decline in policeable crime. We have convened compliance forums, namely independent police investigative Directorate recommendation meetings and domestic violence act compliance forum meetings monthly. To promote and maintain police efficiency and integrity, the department ensured that the service delivery complaints received against SAPS were recorded and addressed. To this end, 100% service delivery complaints received against SAPS were finalized within the stipulated time frame And the actual number here is 132, and all of them were addressed. The designation of out and traffic warrants as peace officers by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development was a notable milestone in our fight against crime. This designation establishes clear parameters for deploying out and traffic warrants. The department will collaborate with relevant authorities, including the RTMC and SAPS, to finalize the certification process, which is expected to be completed by the end of the second quarter of 2026-2027 financial year. The out and traffic warrants, under the supervision of out and traffic police and SAPS, working jointly with other law enforcement agencies and private security companies, conducted crime prevention operations, thus assisting in the arrest of suspects and recoveries of items such as stolen motor vehicles, hijacked motor vehicles, and narcotics. The increase in police visibility is yielding intended outcome. This is clearly reflected in the 2025-2026 quarter 3 crime statistics, which shows a decline in various reported serious crimes. Similarly, property-related crimes recorded a 7.8 year-on-year decrease. And of course, this sustained reduction represents one of the most stable areas of improvement and contributes materially to the overall decline in serious crimes. To strengthen the battle against crime and to increase police visibility, the department deployed helicopters across the province. A total of 904 crime prevention operations were conducted by the Air Wing. The Air Wing or helicopter support recorded success such as foiling armed robberies, and of course...
Honorable Mamabolo, thank you very much. Your time is up.
Thank you very much, Chair.
We are now moving to the next speaker, who's the MEC from Eastern Cape, MEC Ngata.
Chair, greetings to you, Honorable Chair of the NCOP and the Honorable members of the NCOP, Honorable Acting Minister, the Deputy Ministers, Honorable MECs, the Acting National Commissioner and all SAPS management, IPID, all government and parliamentary officials, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is both an honor and a privilege to participate in this important debate today, representing the Eastern Cape government in this esteemed House. Honorable Chairperson, the Eastern Cape Province support this budget as we believe it will go a long way in addressing the challenges facing the JCPS cluster across the country. Honorable members, we are gathered here today in this esteemed parliament as the JCPS cluster is under the spotlight following the alarming revelations from the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the Parliament's ad hoc committee. The outcomes of the ad hoc committee and Madlanga Commission of Inquiry necessitated the introduction of the reset agenda by the Acting Minister of Police and the Acting National Commissioner. These reforms focusing on the overhaul of governance and SCM processes and the strengthening of capacity to fight organized crime are critical interventions towards the professionalization of SAPS and the ministry as a whole. The acting minister stated that he will take action to implement systemic reforms while awaiting the final recommendation of the Madlanga Commission. We as the Eastern Cape Province fully support these reforms as they will help prevent further reputational damage to the institution and restore integrity of SAPS. We fully concur with the minister regarding the enhancement of crime intelligence. Effective crime intelligence will assist in combating organized crime and help prevent planned crimes before they occur. This underlines the urgency of filling vacancies in heads of crime intelligence like in our province. These reforms will undoubtedly benefit our province, especially since we are facing serious crimes challenges in Nelson Mandela, Buffalo City, and OR Tambo districts as our crime hotspots. Buffalo City, despite our dedicated efforts to combat crime, we are still grappling with the following issues: high murder rate, high levels of violent crimes, gender-based violence, dog theft, extortion, construction mafia, taxi violence. However, we remain resolute in preventing crime, strengthening collaboration with all our stakeholders, particularly our communities. Additionally, Honorable Chair, the province has established strong collaboration with our crime-fighting structures such as community safety forums and patrollers. However, our CPF's members are currently not receiving stipends, as per the resolution of the national government that provinces are responsible for compensating the CPFs. The province is actively engaging with all the relevant stakeholders, including provincial treasury, to secure funding, which we have not succeeded yet. And honorable members, it is important to engage more vigorously in current legislative review processes, especially the review of Civilian Secretariat for Policing Service Act 2 of 2011 and the regulations promulgated in 2015. In terms of the implementation of the Act and regulations, we have learned that the lack of standardization across provinces has presented some challenges to realize the full potential of oversight trajectory of SAPS and law enforcement in the province. In our assessment, the Act has not provided the Secretariat with enough powers to oversight the SAPS and law enforcement agencies effectively. This has now been echoed by the ad hoc committee. We are therefore hoping that the review process, Honorable Chair, will properly interface with the introduction of the new reforms and the legislative review trajectories in the police and ministry to ensure that the oversight mechanisms are strengthened and that checks and balances are intact. It is also critical to align with the inputs by the Deputy Minister of Police, Honorable Kasel Matale, on the occasion of the budget vote debate in 2026-2027, 19th of May 2026. The National Assembly highlighting the shortfalls of the ministry of about 792 million against the proposed 181 million to implement the mandate of Civilian Secretariat. Similarly, the Eastern Cape has received a mere 146 million for the current financial year, which is a decrease of 7.6 million compared to 2025-2026 financial year. We must therefore agitate the NCOP that the underfunding of security cluster departments poses a serious threat to our constitutional democracy as a self-inflicted crisis which undermines the development of our country. We must further point out that the limitations of the Act and the underfunding of mandate has not enabled the realization of empowerment of organs of people's power, as we are currently unable to fund community policing forums, albeit that we have virtually knocked on all doors without success. The debate, therefore, comes at a time when there is immense pressure on law enforcement agencies to respond to emerging challenges. Honorable Chairperson, the IPID also requires an adequate budget to function effectively and address capacity challenges, ensuring that all investigations are completed successfully and our province faces challenges similar to those encountered by IPID at national level. We believe that a sufficient budget will help us address capacity building initiatives, allowing us to effectively manage the influx of complaints we received each year. As the Eastern Cape, we are committed to ensuring that all IPID offices are fully operational and adequately staffed to handle complaints efficiently and effectively. There is wide recognition that IPID is an important oversight mechanism established to keep criminality within the ranks of our policing agencies in check. In the past years, the need for heightened oversight over SAPS has been underscored by numerous cases of corruption that have been uncovered by IPID investigation. SAPS is one of the most important institutions of our democracy, with several dedicated and loyal members who work hard to uphold the rule of law. It should, however, be acknowledged that, like any other population, SAPS finds itself confronted by these challenges, and police members being perpetrators of crime, and sometimes police using brutal force against criminals in an effort to enforce the rule of law. And through the work of IPID, the accountability and integrity of SAPS members can be restored. And on 31st July 2024, the President of the Republic, President Ramaphosa, signed into law legislation affirming the institutional and operational independence of IPID and empowering IPID to investigate serious alleged offences committed by police officers, whether they were off duty or not. For this crucial institution to fulfill its obligation, we must continue to provide unwavering support to IPID so that it plays its pivotal role without impediments. To conclude, Honourable Chairperson, I want to emphasize that the Eastern Cape government will continue to provide steadfast support to this ministry, as we firmly believe that its efforts align beautifully with our country's ongoing journey of renewal. The JCPS cluster, which includes IPID, plays a pivotal role in rebuilding public confidence and trust. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, MEC. Good afternoon, Honourable Delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The next speaker will be the Deputy Minister of Police. It's the Honourable Dr. Boshielo.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Honourable Chairperson of the NCOP, Mayor Filwe Tsipanimtweni, Acting Minister of Police, Prof. Feroz Kachalia, Deputy Minister of Police, Honourable Castle Charlie Matali, and then Chairperson of the Select Committee on Security and Justice, Mejane Mananiso, Honourable members of the NCOPs, Honourable Premiers and MEC present, SAPS Management, National Heads of Entities, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honour to rise before this House today to table Budget Vote 24 for an essential institution whose responsibility is to maintain the credibility, accountability, and integrity of policing in a democratic South Africa, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID. I know some others are saying it's IPID, and then others are saying it's IPID. So you can just call it whatever. IPID remains a critical oversight institution in safeguarding the constitutional right of the people of South Africa while advancing the professionalization, accountability, and integrity of the police service. At a time when public trust in law enforcement must be strengthened, the work of IPID is more important than ever. At a time when our nation continues to confront serious challenges relating to crime, corruption, and public trust in policing, the work of IPID becomes even more critical. The Directorate continues to execute its mandate independently without fear, favor, or prejudice, while ensuring that police misconduct and criminality are decisively addressed. And you can attest that by looking at the Madlanga Commission. As a labor-intensive institution, approximately 69% of the Directorate's budget over the MTech period is allocated to compensation of employees. This investment is essential to sustain the specialized investigative capacity required to execute the Directorate's constitutional obligations effectively. In responding to the operational demands and recommendations emerging from the Madlanga Commission and possible ad hoc committee recommendations, IPID will continue reviewing and aligning its organizational structure with service delivery requirements. The Directorate is also mindful of the growing security risks faced by investigators, particularly in high-profile and corrupt-related investigations, which require additional protection measures and resources. In order to deliver effectively on the mandate of IPID,
The budget is projected to increase from 428.6 million in 2025-26 to 479.9 million in 2028-29, despite baseline reductions over the medium term. This demonstrates government's continued commitment to strengthening oversight and accountability within policing institutions. Over the medium-term expenditure framework period, the Directorate strategic focus will be on 5 key priorities. First one, reducing the backlog of cases, particularly corruption-related matters, enhancing investigative and quality assurance capacity, improving operational efficiency through technology and systems modernization, strengthening stakeholder and community relations, and prioritizing gender-based violence and femicide cases. A major strategic priority remains the reduction of the investigation backlog. Over the next 3 years, IPID aims to reduce the backlog of 13,500 cases through the implementation of a dedicated backlog reduction strategy, including the recruitment of 25 experienced investigators on contract to strengthen the existing investigative capacity. At the same time, the Directorate is intensifying its anti-corruption efforts within the police service, even when it is difficult and puts their life at risk. Over the medium term, IPID aims to finalize 45 corrupt cases within 90 days of registration, reinforcing the principle that corruption within law enforcement structures will not be tolerated. This intervention is essential in restoring integrity within law enforcement institutions and reinforcing public confidence. To improve prosecution outcome and strengthen the quality of investigation, IPID will continue enhancing its quality assurance mechanism. The Directorate plans to conduct quality assurance of at least 30% of dockets annually to improve case readiness and legal compliance. To further improve investigative excellence, the Directorate is establishing an in-house forensic investigation capability. This includes the recruitment of financial data analysts, cyber forensic experts, and crime analysts, as well as the procurement of forensic electronic systems to strengthen the handling of complex investigations. IPID also remains committed to continuous skills development through partnership with institutions such as the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, the Special Investigating Unit, and SASETA. These collaborations are strengthening competencies in fraud investigation, cyber forensic, procurement corruption, and internal investigations. Technology modernization is another strategic pillar. Through the continued implementation of the ICT plans, IPC is enhancing its case management system to integrate with broader justice cluster system, including the integrated justice system. This modernization will improve case tracing, coordination, efficiency, and accountability. Investment in server upgrades and operational system will further support institutional agility and responsiveness. In improving accessibility and responsiveness, the call center, launched in August 2025, continues to strengthen citizens' engagement by providing a centralized platform for complaints, injuries, inquiries, and stakeholder communication. Stakeholder engagement and public confidence also remain central to the Directorate corporate communication strategy. Over the MTech period, IPID will conduct media engagements and community outreach initiatives, including in the Northern Cape, to strengthen awareness of its mandate and the provisions of the Independent Police Investigation Directorate Amendment Act of 2024. These initiatives are aimed at improving transparency, accessibility, and public trust. Gender-based violence and femicide remains among the gravest challenges confronting our country. IPID continues to prioritize these matters through specialized investigative training and enhanced monitoring. During the 2025-26 financial year, IPID finalized 132 rape investigations, which resulted in 9 criminal convictions and 19 departmental convictions. In addition, 17 criminal convictions and 27 departmental convictions were secured for other GBVF-related cases. There are an additional 97 rape cases still on the court roll. A total of 21 investigators will receive specialized training in sexual offences investigation in the current financial year. IPID remains resolute in its commitment to accountability, ethical policing, and justice for all South Africans. The Directorate will continue strengthening its capacity, protecting the rights of citizens, and contributing to a professional and trusted police service. Allow me to extend appreciation for the Acting Executive Director, Dr. Takalani Zelda, and the entire staff of IPID, the stakeholders, and those who continue to support the important work of the Directorate in advancing accountability and constitutional and governance in South Africa. As you know, colleagues, it's not easy to get information, especially from inside. You can even see at the Madlanga Commission what is going on, and those who come forward to give us information, sometimes they are threatened and killed, and their families are also killed. So it is very key and very important that we need to strengthen IPID, but also make sure that we are able to protect their life, because they are doing a very great job. technology will assist in terms of making sure that personal temptations and also people who want to do things that they're not supposed to will be able to be caught earlier. But also, IPID should not be seen as impeding the work of the police services. For us, IPID should be actually assisting the police in doing their work. In other spaces, we have people that police can work because of IPID. That is not true. IPID is just making sure that police follow correct procedures, and also they are able to hear the complaints from our people about IPID. I appeal to this honorable house to stand with us as we're going through this cleansing process. We're not doing it for the sake of doing it, but to make sure that we gain your trust and we also gain people's trust. As to assist us, Chair, in ensuring that we get the budget, especially the technology, which doesn't come cheap. It will assist us to be able to be preventative rather than coming out at the last minute. We are also hoping that the recommendations from Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee will also assist in resetting the budget and making sure that whoever did wrong come out to answer for what they did. So as we do that, other people are saying we don't need IPID. I would repeat that we need to have this directorate and resource it very well. And I can tell you, we will have lesser cases than we are now. We are very worried as the ministry that 129 members were involved in GBVF and 127 were killed in the process. So this is very serious. So it means that it's either the caseload is too much, the stress is too much, but we've phrased it in terms of our own wellness, that also our workers need to be well taken care of and make sure that they are available and fit to do the job. Yes, some people are saying our police are not doing anything. They are working at half the capacity that they should. But if you look at the stats, it tells you that they are hard at work, even when it is very tough. It is very tough to get message, honorable members, that one of our members are no more. It is just heartbreaking to see the children that they leave and also their families and people that they love. So not all police are corrupt. Some are hard at work, and we need to be able to encourage and support us. And IPID in its work is what it is trying to do, not necessarily to make police not work, but to support our police so that they can do their work very well. So with your support as the NCOP, I think we'll go far, because I know how passionate you are in terms of making sure that the IPID do their work very well, and we still bank on your support, and we'll come back and give you a report, how far are we, where we could not go right, where we could not get it right, so that we are able to assist us. Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Honourable Delegates, the next participant in the debate is the Honourable Zulu.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Greetings to your good self and all the honourable members, all protocols observed. House Chairperson, before I proceed, I rise to honour the late Honourable Muzi Kaise and Jingila, a servant of the people, gone but not forgotten. May his soul rest in perfect peace. I salute. Honourable House Chairperson, the Umkhonto Wesizwe Party rises to reject vote 28, vote 24, and vote 21 collectively. These votes represent more than 127 billion entrusted to the policing environment at a time when South Africans are facing a crisis of violent crime, organized crime, extortion, corruption, gang violence, and declining public confidence in law enforcement institutions. The largest allocation before this House is vote 28. SAPS receives approximately 127 billion in 2026-27 financial year, and this allocation is projected to continue increasing over the medium term. Government presents this as evidence of commitment to public safety. However, South Africans do not measure safety by budget allocations. They measure safety by whether they can walk to school, operate a business, travel home from work, and sleep safely at night. The question before us is simple. Are South Africans receiving value for the billions allocated to policing? For millions of our people, the answer is no. Chairperson, the Auditor General continues to identify recurring weaknesses in procurement controls, contract management, consequence management, irregular expenditure, investigations, and accountability systems. Year after year, findings are repeated. Year after year, action plans are developed. Year after year, Parliament is asked to approve larger budget. Yet the same weaknesses remain. The Auditor General has highlighted new irregular expenditure estimated at approximately 650 million, while historical irregular expenditure remains unresolved. Chairperson, The financial allocations reveal significant contradiction. Visible policing receives over 66 billion, while detective services receives nearly 25 billion. Crime intelligence is allocated more than 5 billion. Administration alone accounts for almost 24 billion. Yet, despite these enormous allocations, communities continue to complain about detective shortages, poor investigations quality, weak intelligence gathering, forensic delays, and DNA backlogs. The problem is no longer simply how much money is being allocated. The problem is whether that money is producing measurable results. Chairperson, the Western Cape remains one of the clearest examples of the failure of government's policing strategy. Between January 1st and March 31st, 2026, the Western Cape recorded 983 murders, averaging 11 deaths daily, Honorable House Chairperson. Despite intervention programs and support from SANDF, the violence persists with ongoing gang shootings and funerals. The deployment of the military itself is an admission that the SAPS was unable to stabilize these communities on its own. Yet, even with military support, the violence continues. Honorable members, just yesterday morning at around 2 a.m., a police constable on duty at the Delft police station in Cape Town was struck on the head Ngembazo, outside the community service center. Police station no longer hold the integrity they deserve. This House must therefore ask whether current policing model is delivering value for the billions appropriated by Parliament. Chairperson, the crisis facing SAPS is no longer merely a resource crisis. It is a crisis of leadership, it is a crisis of governance, it is a crisis of accountability. Recent developments arising from the Madlanga Commission and parliamentary investigations have exposed the allegations of corruption, abuse of office, procurement irregularities, criminal collisions, and interference in policing structures. These are not allegations involving junior officials. These are allegations involving senior leadership structures entrusted with enforcing the law. That should concern every member of this House. Because when corruption reaches the command structures of policing, it ceases to be an administrative problem. It becomes a threat to a national security. House Chairperson, perhaps the most disturbing example before us is the Medicare 24 tender scandal. In 2024, this Parliament approved the SAPS budget. Members voted that budget because those funds were intended to strengthen policing, improve investigation, support police officers, and make communities safer. Yet from that same budget emerged the Medicare 24 tender scandal contract worth approximately 360 million. Today, that contract sits at the center of allegations involving corruption, fraud, collusion, and criminal syndicates. We must ask ourselves then, how does 360 million leave a budget approved by Parliament and become the subject of criminal investigation? How does 360 million leave a policing budget while communities remain trapped in fear? They paid for those taxes that criminals could be arrested. They paid for those taxes so that murders could be investigated. They paid those taxes so that communities could be protected. Honorable Chairperson, this House cannot concern itself only with how much money is appropriated. We must concern ourselves with what ultimately happens to that money. As members of Parliament, we cannot become part of a system that simply approves budget and then looks away when those budgets are looted. We cannot be part and parcel of approving appropriation that ultimately enrich criminal syndicates instead of protecting South Africans. Chairperson, vote 24 funds the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. IPID is expected to investigate deaths in police custody, deaths resulting from police actions, torture, assault, and corruption involving police officials. Yet, while SAPS...
Thank you, Honourable Zulu. Your time is on.
Honourable Chairperson, as the MK Party, we reject the vote 28, vote 24, and the vote 21.
Thank you, Honourable Zulu.
Your time is up, man.
Honourable Delegates, we now go back online.
The House went up.
Order, members. We now go online. The KwaZulu-Natal chairperson of the Premier, Community Safety and Liaison is the Honourable Fraser, who's been allocated 10 minutes in the debate. Honourable Fraser.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members, fellow South Africans. Today we converge in this August House during a month of profound historical significance to our nation. June is the month in which the people of South Africa, united across racial, class and geographic divides, gathered in Kliptown in 1955 to adopt the Freedom Charter, a revolutionary vision that continues to guide our democratic journey. The Freedom Charter proclaimed a simple yet powerful truth, that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity, and that the people shall govern. At the heart of that vision was the promise of human dignity, justice, peace, and security. The architects of the Freedom Charter understood that freedom cannot flourish where fear reigns. They understood that democracy cannot thrive where communities are terrorized by violence, where women and children live in fear, where criminals operate with impunity, and where ordinary citizens are denied the right to live work and raise their families in safety. It is therefore fitting that as we commemorate the enduring legacy of the Freedom Charter, we gather to deliberate on the 2026-2027 police budget vote. This debate goes beyond mere financial allocations and expenditure projections. It is about the capacity of the democratic state to uphold the constitutional rights of our people. It is about strengthening the institution entrusted with the protection of our community. It is about advancing the vision of South Africa in which every person, regardless of where they live, can enjoy freedom from fear and freedom from violence. Honorable Chairperson, our liberation movement has consistently maintained that crime undermines investment, weakens social cohesion, destroys livelihoods, and disproportionately affects the poor and the working class, who often have the fewest resources available to protect themselves from these devastating consequences. For many South Africans, particularly those living in vulnerable communities, crime is not an abstract statistic. It is a daily reality that affects their ability to work, learn, travel, and live with dignity. The people of KwaZulu-Natal understand that these realities all too well. Our province continues to confront serious challenges associated with violent crimes, organized criminal syndicates, extortion rackets, stock theft, drug trafficking, gender-based violence, and infrastructure vandalism. It is for this reason that we welcome the allocation of more than 127 billion of the South African Police Services during the 2026-2027 financial year. This investment demonstrates government's commitment to strengthening the capacity of law enforcement agents to combat crime, protect communities, and uphold the rule of law. We further welcome the ongoing efforts to modernize the policing, strengthen intelligence capabilities, improve investigative capacity, and enhance visible policing across the country. Honorable Chair, the ANC's 2024 election manifesto committed the government into intensifying the fight against crime and corruption, strengthening law enforcement institutions, protecting women and children, and building safer communities. This budget gives practical expression to those commitments. It reflects a recognition that a capable, professional, and trusted police service is essential for the achievement of our broader developmental goals. However, Honorable Chairperson, the ANC has always understood that crime cannot be addressed through policing alone. Criminality often thrives in conditions characterized by poverty, unemployment, inequality, substance abuse, and social dislocation. The struggle against crime must therefore be linked to the broader struggle to transform society, create economic opportunities, and improve the living conditions of our people. This understanding finds expression in the Freedom Charter itself, which recognized that political freedom must be accompanied by social and economic justice. As representative of KwaZulu-Natal, we are particularly encouraged by the growing emphasis on community-based approaches to crime prevention. The Department of Community Safety and Liaison in our province has prioritized the strengthening of community policing structures, partnership with traditional leaders, faith-based organizations, civil society formations, and local communities. This approach recognizes a simple but important truth. Sustainable safety cannot be achieved by police acting alone. It requires active collaboration between communities and the state. Honorable Chairperson, no discussion on safety and security can ignore the ongoing crisis of gender-based violence and femicide. The continued prevalence of gender-based violence remains one of the gravest threats to human dignity and social justice in our society. It undermines the constitutional promise of equality and freedom for all. We therefore welcome the continued prioritization of programs aimed at strengthening victim support services, improving the investigation of sexual offences, and enhancing coordination across government departments and law enforcement agencies. The safety of women and children must remain central to our efforts to build a safer South Africa. We also support efforts aimed at strengthening accountability and integrity within South African police services. Public trust in law enforcement institutions is essential for effective policing. While we acknowledge the dedication and professionalism of the overwhelming majority of police officers who serve our country with distinction, we must remain resolute in rooting out corruption, misconduct, and criminality wherever it occurs. Accountability strengthens institutions and reinforces public confidence in the democratic state. Honorable Chair, as we support this budget vote, we also emphasize the importance of implementation, monitoring, and measurable outcomes. The people of South Africa expect more than commitments on paper. They expect tangible improvements in their daily life. They expect safer communities, responsive police stations, effective investigations, and visible policing. They expect criminals to be apprehended and brought to justice. They expect government institutions to work together in defense of the public interest. As we commemorate the anniversary of the adoption of the Freedom Charter this month, we are reminded that the struggle for of freedom did not end in 1994. The responsibility to build a society based on justice, equality, dignity, and security remains ours. The generation that gathered in Kliptown understood that freedom will be incomplete if people continued to live in fear and insecurity. Their vision remains relevant even today. As we conclude, the people of KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable Chairperson, like millions of South Africans, want to live in communities where children can walk to school safely, where women can move freely without fear, where businesses can invest and create jobs without intimidation, and where communities can enjoy peace and stability. They want a police service that is visible, professional, accountable, and trusted. This budget vote provides an important foundation for advancing these objectives. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Fraser. Honourable Delegates, we continue the debate, and the next person at the podium is the Honourable Gericke.
Voorsitter, goeiemiddag aan almal. Net voordat ek begin met my toespraak, wil ek net sê ek sal nie tyd mors met die feit dat die waarnemende minister nie my geskrewe vrae beantwoord het nie. Ons gaan dit los vir 'n ander dag op 'n ander platform waar ons glas gaan afhaal om te beklei oor u assosiasie en waar u kant gekies het ten opsigte van President Cyril Ramaphosa. Chairperson, I stand on the protocol that has already been established, but allow me to say a special good afternoon to Comrade Deputy Minister KwaZulu-Natal. It's always a pleasure to see him in the House because of his inviting spirit. Chairperson, the Economic Freedom Fighters rejects the budget votes of South African Police Service, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, and the Civilian Secretariat. The budget before us is one of the main priorities in terms of the budget cycle for national government in executing its constitutional obligations and upholding the rule of law. Since our country is plagued by the escalation of crime, the existence of criminal syndicates, gangsterism, and violent crime, it is imperative that this budget must enable the police to perform its functions to the fullest in terms of Section 205 of the Constitution. And this is to prevent, combat and investigate crime, and as well as protecting the property of citizens. The proposed national appropriation of 127 billion rand therefore represents gross underfunding to realize the constitutional objective to fight crime in South Africa. It is a meager minimal increase of 5.1% in comparison with 2024 and 2025. We also reject the budget of departments that have been criminally infiltrated, from the executive police echelons to intelligence structures and the judiciary. This department has been systematically infiltrated by sophisticated criminal networks. This department has thousands of upright, dedicated men and women in blue who risk their lives daily to uphold the law, yet whose sacrificial work is being systematically erased, undermined, and weaponized by deeply embedded rogue elements. Nowhere is the devastation felt more than on the Cape Flats, here in the Western Cape, where extortion syndicates continue to bleed communities dry. These gangs thrive because corrupt networks within the police actively shield them from being dismantled. For years, communities across townships like Mitchells Plain, Khayelitsha, Nyanga, Langa, Guguletu, and Philippi have been subjected to a reign of terror by extortion gangs that demand monthly cash payments from everyone, ranging from multi-million rand construction companies and corporate retail chains to informal spaza shops. Roadside vegetable sellers and even local clinics are forced to pay or face violent retribution. And those who refuse to pay are met with ruthless violence, where businesses are torched or infrastructure development is stopped. On the surface, the failure to do away with these syndicates is often blamed on the lack of police personnel or inadequate intelligence gathering. However, we now know that the persistence of extortion on the Cape Flats is not an issue of tactical paralysis or a lack of police capacity, but from an active illicit symbiosis. Had rogue SAPS elements not provided a deeply protective shield, these criminal networks would have been eradicated long ago. Chairperson, allow me to touch on the issue of immigration and illegal foreigners, which is a critical point to the EFF, and I want you to take note of this, Mr. Acting Minister. Whilst the policy position of the EFF is often deliberately distorted and taken out of context, the EFF, on the contrary, subscribe to the rule of law. We have repeatedly called for stricter border control and to avoid illegal access to South Africa. Our call has been undermined by the ruling ANC and its GNU partners. This campaign is fueled by Mr. Gayton McKenzie when he and some uninformed supporters chased migrants around with handguns at the Limpopo River. It is further incited when the very same Mr. McKenzie issued public statements that illegal migrants should be denied healthcare and education. His call to remove medical support equipment from migrants in hospitals and to remove the children of migrants from schools have an impact on the campaign. This is a cruel, coward, and violent call and a direct insult to our country's culture for the rule of law and for the respect of human dignity. This is what the struggle has been about, and this is why we have been in the trenches for the protection of human dignity and the rule of law. Yet he instigated this culture. Now that he is now calling on people not to apply violence. He's going public now to say don't attack. And now it seems that they do Baisa now. Hulle het mos gesê hulle Baisa nie, but they Baisa now. And yet he instigated this culture. Now that he enjoys the blue lights and the security, he is silent on the issue, but he used it as a recruitment strategy for his party to the detriment of our country and its citizens. This is utter hypocrisy and bigotry. The EFF condemns any attacks on foreign nationals in the strongest possible terms and reject these attacks with the contempt it deserves. And the EFF says it's the work of the law enforcement agencies of South Africa to stop and search and evict and deal with illegal immigrants in our country and not this of individuals. The EFF calls on the police to investigate these foolish and insensitive statements and bring the minister before the courts of our country. He cannot serve as a minister if he does not account for his contribution, his reckless contribution to this campaign. The EFF also calls for visible policing, which is of critical importance. We need more boots on the ground to do foot patrols in difficult areas to drive, the establishment of satellite or mobile police stations in communities to reduce reaction times, and a dedicated sector to deal with gang-related violence. Only will assist greatly to reduce crime immediately. Comrade Jane Mananiso, you are naughty. As detective services in SAPS are treated almost as a stepchild. Individual detectives at some stations are carrying hundreds of dockets to investigate very little logistical support and resources. It cannot be expected of detectives to achieve a high conviction rate if they are not fully equipped to execute their duties. And as the EFF, we are particularly concerned about the high number of cases that are unattended to and falling through the cracks. Wait your turn, it will come. This is an injustice to the community and the denial of their constitutional right to protection. The President in his SONA speech earlier this year outlined critical focus areas on the policing sector. This includes organized crime and illicit goods, stabilization of high violent areas, firearm control, anti-corruption, and gender-based violence. Chairperson, the subsequent breakdown of the main appropriation indicates already the shortcomings of the next financial year. It means with this budget, the same trend will persist in the next financial year. On average, the budget increase on visible policing, detective services and crime intelligence range between 3 and 5%. And with inflation and the increase in consumer goods, this budget will not make a difference in the fight against crime. It effectively means that our country will suffer the same fate as in the previous years. You don't need a rocket scientist to understand this. Another extreme worrying factor for the EFF is the huge budget allocated for protection and security services. The amount for protection and security services is a whopping 4.52 billion rand, with an increase of 4.02% compared to last year. And this is money that could be used and utilized for service delivery for those that don't have houses and social grants. We have repeatedly requested a full and comprehensive breakdown of this allocation to see who gets what and who is burdening the taxpayer with expensive bodyguards and security for their homes. Up till today, this list is dealt with in secrecy and evading us, yet it is the right of the public to know. Chairperson, importantly, the South African Police Service must invest to restore public trust and confidence. It is a given that the South African public has lost confidence in how the police deal with crime. The system is eroding rapidly and the morale of men and women in blue is at its lowest. For this reason, the police must build a strategic cooperative relationship with citizens, recognizing that officers are not the enemy. Corruption and bribery in the police service is an evil that needs to be uprooted urgently. This phenomenon is crippling service delivery and will inevitably lead to the collapse of the criminal justice system. Therefore, crime intelligence must be reconfigured to purge corrupt members. Specialized units must be established to fight gender-based violence. GBV has become a massive problem in our country, and the statistics speak for itself. Chairperson, for the investigation of GBV, the police must employ experts to assist women thoroughly. It cannot be dealt with by inexperienced officers at a counter of a police station or a service center. The budget for GBV must rapidly change to help our female counterparts to escape the plight of gender-based violence and expedite the healing process. We are also seriously concerned about the high amounts paid out to people for civil claims. It cannot be, Mr. Deputy Minister Chairperson, that billions of rands are being paid out for civil claims. This speaks of a fundamental failure by police to adequately train officers on the very important subject on the protection of human rights and the right to dignity of every citizen, regardless of race and color and gender and ethnicity. The time has come where police officers are found guilty of abusing their power, that they be held accountable for damages incurred. We do, however, welcome the proposed interaction with the Civilian Secretariat on the proposed paying stipends to members of community policing forums and neighborhoods to assist in combating crime. Now, these members of CPFs and neighborhoods are sacrificing a great deal to patrol their neighborhoods and streets at night time to guarantee safety and security for citizens. The EFF has championed the proposal for quite some time and expressed the hope that the process will be expedited in order to realize this objective. This will assist community-based policing and counter the escalation of crime. By the same token, the EFF expressed sincere gratitude to the Chairperson Mananiso, and colleagues of this committee for assisting to reach this point. However, Chairperson, the provincial allocation of budgets to provinces raised serious concerns on the disposition of SAPS to eliminate crime in disadvantaged communities. The proposed allocation for the Western Cape is a mere 967.025 million rand, and this is a province that is riddled with gangsterism, violence and murders. It must therefore be resourced to empower SAPS to deal with this crime and social challenges in communities. This allocation will not be enough to cover these areas. The province of Limpopo is a strategic partner in fighting illegal border crossing. Limpopo is critical as it is a gateway for some borders, and policing is much needed to cover these areas. The proposed budget of 622 million rand will not be very helpful to assist the police in doing so. Chairperson, the Civilian Secretariat is a major point of concern, and it would appear that this department is province-based in the cities and larger towns. This is a disconnect of serving the people in rural areas as well, and the situation needs serious intervention to take the services of the Secretariat to all people across South Africa without putting a liability on poor people to travel and overnight. The Independent Police Directorate must urgently be supported to appoint more investigators and furnished with proper logistics and resources. Capable and expert investigators are needed to keep up with the increase of offenders in the police service. This is evident from the results of the Madlanga Commission. In closing, the EFF expressed appreciation in the work done by the Madlanga Commission. This commission is yielding results in turning the tide for South Africa to break the chain of syndicates and organized crime. The work done by the commission is actually what the police should be doing to investigate crime. Unfortunately, there was a deliberate effort by politicians and officers to collapse the police service. The rebuilding process of the police service can be assisted by allocating bigger budgets to SAPS.
Your time has expired.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much indeed. The next participant in the debate is the Honourable Madupe.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Let me also stand on the protocol that has already been established. Honourable Chairperson, today I rise to declare that African National Congress supports Budget 28-24-21 for SAPS, IPID and Civilian Secretariat for the police. This we do mainly because we are serious about fighting crime and we're ensuring that our communities are safe. For this to happen, the South African Police, IPID and Civilian Secretariat need to be resourced and capacitated to fulfill their respective mandate. Honourable Chair, I'll be listening to my fellow colleagues that they are rejecting this budget. Honourable Chair, how do you say you don't support a budget and still expect police to catch criminals? You expect police to exercise their duties, but you are denying them resources to exercise that. To me, I find it to be very unfair, and it is not the statement that has been made by Honourable Zulu and Honourable Herik. Honestly, it doesn't speak good because, one, our responsibility, clearly it undermines the integrity of this House. Our responsibilities as members of Parliament is to hold department accountable and to make sure that they account to each and every cent that will have appropriated them. So it means clearly, as members of Parliament, we are just giving them budget, but we don't hold them accountable. And it bounces back to you. It means as a member of Parliament, you are unable to exercise your duties. Honourable Chairperson, a modern, capable and accountable police service is not luxury. It is the foundation of freedom of our people, what our people fought for. In this regard, the National Development Plan is very instructive and I quote, modernize in an integrated, holistic way of all aspects of systems and equipment. This would include fast-tracking the implementation of current project and modernization initiatives. Technology should be used to increase efficiency across the board and particularly to eliminate bottlenecks in criminal justice system. The ANC, through our Makotla and 55 National Conference resolution, has been very clear, consistent and intentional, and said we must build a professional and well-resourced and technologically enabled police service that restore public confidence and make communities safer. This budget gives us the tool to do so exactly. Honourable Chairperson, as you would have figured by now, my speech today is focusing on modernization and operational capacity of police service to fight crime. Minister, we cannot fight 21st century crime with 20th century tools and method. The modernization and digitalization of SAPS and administrative system must be fast-tracked. We cannot accept and be comfortable that police stations, IP offices, provincial and national offices are still using manual system in the age of the fourth industrial revolution. Paper documents easily get lost or stolen. Manual system creates backlogs, while digital system creates footprint and accountability of those who are involved. We welcome the allocation towards an enhancement of digital firearm control management system and the rollout of the integrated person management system across multiple sites. Because when the firearm is used in a crime in Mafikeng, the system must be able to tell us of its history in real time, not in months. When suspect is arrested in Madikwe, their record must be accessible to every station in the province and across the country. Honourable Chairperson, DNA, ballistics and digital forensic backlogs are crippling the criminal justice system. It makes it difficult for the National Prosecution Authority to successfully prosecute crimes. In most situations, the victim waits years while the alleged perpetrators walk free. We support the budget's focus on reducing this backlog. Forensic evidence is the voice of victims who can no longer speak. In Northwest, stock theft, GBV, armed robbery, cases that stalls exhibits, sits in labs. Modern labs and trained analysts are non-negotiable. Honourable Minister, crime intelligence is our eyes and ears. We are well aware of the witnesses and revelation that emerged from Madlanga Commission relating to the division of the South African Police Service. We must strengthen its capabilities to detect, prevent and disrupt criminal networks before they act. The Civilian Secretariat must ensure policy oversight is sharp and the sub-strategy respond to real community threats. Honourable Chairperson, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate need our special attention. As the African National Congress, we have long been saying that in-house forensic capabilities within IPID must be a priority. IPID Deputy Chairperson cannot investigate police misconduct and still queue in SAPS labs for evidence to be processed and analysed. Independent, Honourable Minister, must be total independence, honourable members. We also note the increased support for Directorate for priority crime investigation. The Hawks must have the resource they need to take corruption, cash in transit and organised crime. Honourable Chairperson, let me bring all this home to the Northwest. We celebrate the recent successes by South African Police Service in the province. Multidisciplinary operation in Rustenburg and Mafikeng have led to arrest of syndicates involved in mining-related crimes and vehicle theft. Community Policing Forum in Dr. KK are working with stations to reduce the robberies, the house robberies. These wins prove that when we resource our members, they deliver. I must specifically appreciate the recent police work in Swadregens. That's my hometown where I come from. On Wednesday, the 13th of May, SAPS members acted on intelligence and dismantled a massive drug laboratory on a farm outside Swadregens. 11 suspects were arrested, including 5 Mexican nationals, and they appeared before Swadregens Magistrate Court on Friday the 15th. Honorable members, this past exposed how international drug syndicates are targeting our rural farms. Nearly 500 kilograms of methamphetamines and chemical worth over 1 billion were seized. We sincerely thank the community members who alerted police and provide valuable information for operation to be success. This is exactly why Budget Vote 28 must prioritize crime intelligence capabilities, digital forensic, and rapid forensic response. Cases like this live and die on DNA, ballistic, and digital evidence. When the Hawks and SAPS crime intelligence can act swiftly and process evidence in-house, we win. But we cannot ignore, Honorable Minister. I also agree with you that on your decision to visit the Northwest. I fully agree with you and I support that initiative. But I implore your collective, Honorable Minister, that you visit Sun City Station. Sun City Station remain in need of an urgent intervention. The station serves a high tourist, high traffic area, but faces challenges with infrastructure, staffing, forensic response time. Tourists and local residents deserve the same safety as your Sandton or Cape Town. This budget must prioritize infrastructure upgrades, vehicles, and dedicated forensic support for Sun City. A modern police station is the first sign to criminals that state is present. Rural stations, Honorable Minister, across the Mulema still struggle with connectivity for digital system. Modernization must reach the last mile, not just urban centers. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, this budget is about building a police service that is feared by criminals and trusted by communities. Modernization is not about replacing people with machines. It's about giving our men and women in blue the tools to do their jobs and come home safely. Honorable Chairperson, as the African National Congress, we support Vote 28, 24, 21. Let us fund them fully, oversee them properly, and deliver the safety our people voted for. Honorable Chairperson, again, I'm Onika Midupi, member of the African National Congress. I should not be mistaken for another party that rejects this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Madupe. Honourable Delegates, the next participant will be participating online. It's the Honourable Van den Berg, who has 5 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, members, acting and deputy ministers, and of course, citizens of the land. Today, in this budget vote, the Freedom Front Plus stands firm in our commitment to the safety and security of all South Africans, particularly our vulnerable rural communities. The new budget reflects continuity of operations with added emphasis through extra funding on organised crime investigations, also a police reset narrative under the new minister. However, structural issues like forensic capacity and per station funding is still diluted. 1 year ago, we highlighted, to name but a few issues, under-resourced stations, failing rural safety, rampant violent crime, and police service hampered by mismanagement and cadre deployment. We warned that without decisive action, the spiral will continue. Chairman, what has changed in the past year? Official statistics show some declines in certain contact crimes, which we acknowledge. However, the broader picture still remains dire. Violent crime, farm attacks, and viral images of murders have shocked the country. Public satisfaction remains slow, vacancy rates high, officers unavailable for duty, and systemic issues undermine the effectiveness of the force. The revelations from ongoing commissions paint an even starker picture. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry exposed alleged drug cartel infiltration, massive theft from police safes, and deep-rooted misconduct at senior levels. The ad hoc committee has heard testimony pointing to an institutional crisis, with some suspensions and investigations underway. These processes have exposed structural weaknesses, breakdowns in coordination, unclear lines of authority, failures in accountability, and above all, political interference. While the commissions bring some transparency, we have to ask if there is light at the end of the tunnel. However, the commissions confirm the deepness of the rot rather than signaling rapid turnaround. Real reform requires far more than inquiries. It demands decisive consequence for criminality. The police reset agenda sounds promising on paper, but implementation reveals the same old problems. Rural communities, especially farmers and farm workers, continue to bear the brunt of poor policing. The Freedom Front Plus has long called for specialized rural safety units, better reservist systems, and genuine prioritization, not just reports and rhetoric. Chair, persisting structural failures waste taxpayers' money and endanger lives. Expensive rentals and inflated cost of repairs for police buildings drain budgets. That should go to frontline services. Digital transformation efforts falter because new software systems are installed, but ICT networks and old hardware cannot handle the bandwidth. These lead to slow and incompatible systems. All this hampers the criminal justice value chain, delays investigations, and frustrates detectives. Vehicle shortages and poor upkeep remain chronic include limiting visible policing, rapid response, and also rural patrols. The Civilian Secretariat remains largely advisory with limited enforcement power. IPID battles massive backlogs, capacity constraints, and low uptake of its recommendations. The Private Security Authority is plagued by severe governance instability, with its council dissolved and with major material irregularities. This amid the controversial new firearm regulations, adding risk and potentially harming the private security sector. Honourable members, we will support allocations that deliver safety, but we cannot endorse departments doing business as usual. We urge this House to demand better outcomes. Let us build a safer South Africa through decisive practical actions. We want to see a blue light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much, Honourable Van den Berg. I think you know what the sound means. Honourable Delegates, we are back in the chamber. If we can now continue with the Western Cape MEC for Police Oversight and Community Safety. That's the Honourable Moreau.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Delegates, Acting Minister of Police, Deputy Ministers of Police, members of the National Council of Provinces. For the people of the Western Cape, this debate is particularly important. We have just reflected on the latest quarterly crime statistics for the fourth quarter of the 2025-26 financial year. While there has been an encouraging reduction in murders and certain categories of violent crime, the reality remains stark. Between January and March this year, 983 people were murdered in the Western Cape. 983 lives lost in just 3 months. 983 families shattered. Gangsterism, organised crime, extortion, illegal firearms and drug trafficking continue to devastate communities across the Cape Flats and beyond. Against this backdrop, one would reasonably expect a province facing some of the highest levels of violent crime in the country to have a police service that is fully capacitated, properly resourced and equipped with every available tool to confront these criminal networks. Unfortunately, that is not the reality. The truth is that the current situation is a result of years of underinvestment, under-resourcing and institutional neglect by national government. The status quo we face today did not arise overnight. It is a consequence of more than a decade of declining detective capacity, instability within crime intelligence, shortage of personnel, insufficient specialized resources, and a failure to adequately capacitate police stations serving some of the most dangerous communities in South Africa. Today, SAPS is being forced to play catch-up. And while the ordinary men and women in blue continue to work under exceptional difficult circumstances, they are being asked to fight sophisticated criminal organizations with inadequate support and insufficient resources. The Western Cape government reached a point where we could no longer stand by and simply hope that the situation would improve. We were compelled to step into a space that constitutionally falls within the mandate of national government. That is why we established the Law Enforcement Advancement Plan, better known as LEAP. At a time when communities were crying out for greater law enforcement visibility and support, we acted. Today, more than 1,200 additional law enforcement officers have been deployed to support crime-fighting efforts in high-risk communities across the province. The evidence increasing shows that these deployments are making a difference. Recent crime statistics indicate that combined LEAP deployments areas recorded a reduction in murders. Areas such as Delft, Mitchells Plain, Nyanga and Philippi East have recorded encouraging decreases. But let us be absolutely clear. LEAP was never intended to replace SAPS. LEAP was designed to support SAPS. LEAP exists because SAPS did not have sufficient capacity to adequately respond to the scale of violent crime confronting our communities. And while we are proud of the impact LEAP has made, it remains deeply concerning that the provincial government has had to spend hundreds of millions of rand over recent years to perform a visible policing function that constitutionally belongs to national government. For the current financial year alone, the Western Cape government will spend approximately 360 million through our Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety in support of policing interventions and law enforcement partnerships aimed at strengthening safety. We have stepped forward because our communities need us to act. We are helping SAPS, we are supporting SAPS, but SAPS must now help us to help them. The first and immediate help would be the expansion of investigative and intelligence power to municipalities having capacity. The City of Cape Town has made significant investments in expanding its Metro Police Department. Honourable Acting Minister, they are ready to assist. It will immediately take the pressure off detectives having an average of more than 200 case dockets to attend to. This does not require any financial obligations from SAPS, but only the mere stroke of a pen allowing it. I have repeatedly stated that if we are serious about reducing gang murders, preventing extortion and dismantling organised criminal networks, then intelligence-led policing must be restored. We cannot continue fighting 21st century organised crime with 20th century intelligence capabilities. You cannot prevent killings if you cannot anticipate them. You cannot dismantle crime syndicates if you do not understand how they operate. You cannot stop gang shootings if you cannot identify who is planning them and where they are likely to occur. Yet the Western Cape continues to experience instability within crime intelligence structures. Today I once again call on the Acting National Commissioner and SAPS leadership to urgently appoint a permanent head of crime intelligence for the Western Cape. This appointment cannot be delayed any longer. But appointment alone is not enough. Crime intelligence must also be properly capacitated. It must be properly staffed, it must be properly funded, and it must be properly equipped to gather, analyze and operationalize intelligence against gang networks, extortion syndicates, drug traffickers and illegal firearm suppliers. Because quite frankly, we are not yet making a meaningful dent in the operational capabilities of many organised criminal groups. Too often these gangs continue to recruit, intimidate, extort, and murder with alarming confidence. And why? Because we remain intelligence staff, and because critical specialized units still do not have the strength and support they require. This is particularly true for the anti-gang unit. The anti-gang unit plays a vital role in confronting some of the most dangerous criminal organizations operating in South Africa. Yet, year after year, we hear concerns regarding capacity, constraints, personal shortage, and resource limitations. If government is serious about reducing gang violence, then crime intelligence and the anti-gang unit must become national priorities. The gangs are laughing at us, not because our police officers lack courage or lack commitment, but because criminal organizations understand where the weaknesses exist within the system, and they exploit those weaknesses every single day. The second area requiring urgent intervention is detective services. If intelligence helps us identify criminals, detectives help us secure convictions. And this is where another major challenge exists. Far too many detectives continue working under unacceptable conditions. Across many police stations, detectives face overwhelming caseloads while simultaneously lacking the most basic tools necessary to conduct effective investigations. If SAPS is serious about improving conviction rates and disrupting the cycle of violence, then it must urgently invest in detective support. And I'm not speaking about a modest or taking provision of these resources. I'm speaking about meaningful investment. The reality is that in some environments, more than 10 detectives are sharing a single outdated computer with unstable internet connectivity and limited functionality. How can we expect successful prosecutions when investigators are forced to spend valuable time overcoming basic administrative obstacles? SAPS must be far more serious in this regard, and detective services are the backbone of successful prosecutions. Without investigations, there are no convictions, and without convictions, there are no deterrents, and without deterrents, the cycle of violence continues. Honourable Chairperson, the recent proceedings of the Madlanga Commission and the Ad Hoc Committee have painted a deeply troubling picture regarding certain elements within the policing environment, and these allegations strike at the heart of policing legitimacy. If residents lose confidence in law enforcement, information dries up, witnesses become reluctant, communities disengage, and that is why cleaning up the rot within SAPS must be a priority. We must root out corruption wherever it exists. We must hold compromised officials accountable, and we must ensure that criminal elements do not infiltrate institutions meant to combat crime. And most importantly, we must support and protect the overwhelming majority of honest, hardworking police officers who continue serving with integrity despite these challenges, because they deserve better, and they deserve a government that prioritizes their successes. The Western Cape government remains committed to working collaboratively with SAPS. We recognize the dedication of thousands of officers who continue serving under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. We recognize the dangers they face, but recognizing alone is not enough. The budget must translate into real improvements on the ground. It must strengthen crime intelligence. It must expand and support the anti-gang unit. It must improve detective capacity. It must provide modern investigative tools. It must ensure that high crime provinces receive resources proportional to the threats they face. And it must demonstrate that national government understands the urgency, the crisis confronting communities across the Western Cape. And let us finally give the honest men and women in blue the tools they need to win this fight. Tools that will hold offenders accountable and root out the rot. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. Honourable Delegates, the House now recognises the Honourable Godsall and invites him to take the debate further for the next 8 minutes.
Honourable Chair, Acting Minister, Deputy Ministers and members and fellow South Africans, good afternoon. Today we debate a police budget of more than 127 billion rand that is meant to give effect to a police service that is properly resourced and capacitated, which South Africa desperately needs after decades of ANC policy pollution. Through cadre deployment, corruption and sketchy procurement policies, all of which we are currently seeing unfold in front of the Madlanga Commission, the ANC has hollowed out SAPS to the point where gangs now terrorise communities, while the majority in Parliament deploy the army in an electioneering ploy to manage a policing crisis that was of their own making. The ANC electioneering ploy has led to an increase in crime on the Cape Flats. Between the 1st and the 7th of June, the Cape Flats had 51 gang-related murders and 43 gang-related attempted murders. Honourable Chair, soldiers cannot compensate for decades of failed policing policy. They cannot replace detectives. They cannot replace intelligence-led policing. And they cannot replace the operational capacity that has been weakened through years of ANC governance, cronyism and cadre deployment. The Celebis, the Viegas, the Kleles and the Nkunus. ANC cadre deployment and cronyism is what happens when political loyalty becomes more important than competence. Honest police officers struggle on a daily basis as a result of collapsing operational resources. And nowhere has this cronyism been more brutal than under Lieutenant General Patakile's leadership right here in the Western Cape. Let's see how quickly the ANC now jumps up to prove my points on cadre deployment. The government repeatedly tells South Africans, Honourable Minister, that gender-based violence is a national disaster. The President himself has declared it a crisis. Honourable Mananiso referred in a report to our oversight duty, and that's exactly what I did. During my oversight visit to various police stations, initially in December, at the end of the 16 days of activism, and then again, a string of them on one day, Minister, Friday, 15 May, I found the one station and the one FCS unit after the other without rape kits. No child rape kits in Mitchell's Plain, no rape kits or child rape kits in Yanga. No child rape kits in Bellville, no child rape kits in Delft, no rape kits in the entire Overberg. Die Wes-Kaapse provinsiale kommissaris en dis ook ANC se beleid het al hierdie stasies in die steek gelaat. Al die lede wat daar diens doen en al die slagoffers van verkrachting en kinderverkrachting. Last week, Honourable Phineas and Honourable Sabande, as part of another election ploy, focused so hard on using race and references to apartheid in every second sentence of their social cluster budget speeches that they forgot to speak about the scourge of senseless rape and child rape in this country. Talk about the social conscience. Child rape, corrective rape, the gang rape of young women as part of gang initiation. These barbaric acts, Honourable Members Phineas and Sabande, they do not know race. Not having a rape kit when a victim arrives at a police station or an FCS unit means you cannot collect evidence from that victim in the critical short period after the rape. It means you cannot link the rape to the rapist. It means you cannot arrest and you cannot convict the rapist. And if you cannot do that, Honourable Members, you cannot address this scourge. Minister, I wrote to your office and to the Provincial Commissioner's office 3 weeks ago about the rape kit supply chain fiasco. And I'm yet to receive a response. But perhaps you can use your 5 minutes at the end of this debate to tell the House why there were no rape kits when I visited all those stations, despite the fact that SAPS's budget allows for the procurement thereof. It demands, in fact. Maar agbare lede, ten spyte van die feit dat die provinsiale kommissaris en die minister my noodkrete oor verkrachtingstoestelle ignoreer, het die lede van die Ceres FCS eenheid se passie en toewyding nie verkrachtingsslagoffers geval nie. Net verlede week het hierdie lede van die FCS en Ceres onder leiding van adjutant-offisier AJ van Rooyen en die staatsaanklaer advokaat Renay Eis, die hedendaagse monster Liana Vergatini, 78 jaar agter tralies gesit vir die verkrachting en seksuele uitbuiting van menige minderjarige seuns en meisies. Baie dankie. And it's not only rape kits, Honourable Members. When I visited Mitchell's Plain on the first day of Operation Prosper, it was notable that a simple force multiplier like K9 police dogs were not employed as part of the ANC's electioneering ploy. En nou vra die maas van die Manenberg en die aunties van Atlantis wat volgende week vir die 15-jarige Nikita Finch met begrawe. Hoekom sterf ons kinders? Want auntie, die polisie het in die afgelope 5 jaar nie narcotics dogs gekoop nie en geen ander honde nie. En weet auntie hoekom nie? Want die ANC se BEE beleid. Die mense wat die honde teel is nie BEE compliant nie. 'n Mens kan hierdie bog nie opmaak nie, eerbare Pinaar. Honde is nie liksere nie. Op die Kaapse vlakte van Mfuleni deur Manenberg, Nyanga Oos polisie, Philippi Oos tot in Mitchells Plain is hierdie honde force multipliers. Hulle spoor onwettige vuurwapens op, hulle spoor dwelms op, hulle spoor verdagtes op en hulle vermenigvuldig letterlik polisieeringskapasiteit. Maar dit is die praktiese gevolg van die ANC se beleid. Gemeenskappe betaal die prys in bloed terwyl politically connected insiders voordeel trek uit die ANC se supply chain kinkels. Honourable Members, ANC policies are not just killing our economy. It is killing our people right here on the Cape Flats. A gangster in Nyanga does not care about procurement scorecards and a drug dealer in Hanover Park does not care about BEE compliance targets. But they absolutely benefit, Honourable Mananiso, when SAPS cannot procure enough trained dogs to detect firearms and narcotics. Minister, die gangsters start die polisie, want hulle weet die polisie het nie die resources nie. En wat dink jy doen dit aan die polisielede se moraal? But my fellow South Africans, at the same time, billions continue to flow into expanding presidential VIP protection, instead of expanding policing powers to capable governments. We saw this hypocrisy clearly during the recent by-election campaign in Dunoon. This community has for months asked that a SAPS mobile truck be stationed closer to where they reside. On the very day that the ANC Minister of Employment and Labour campaigned in that community, a brand new truck arrived right in front of the centre where she was campaigning. But, Honourable Members, the very next day, the truck disappeared with the minister. The DA, Honourable Chair, supports this budget because we support policing. But we reject ANC policies that helped create this mess. Catch, convict, and let's clean up. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Gotzel. Honourable Delegates, we now go for a series of participants on the virtual platform, the first of which is the Northern Cape MEC for Transport, Safety and Liaison, and that is the Honourable Kaloy. Honourable Kaloy, you have 10 minutes.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me stand on the protocol that has been established. Honourable Chair, it is an honour to participate in this important budget vote on behalf of the people of the Northern Cape. Today we debate not only budgets and allocations, but the safety, dignity and confidence of our community. We debate the ability of our people to live without fear of violent crime, gender-based violence, organized criminality, stock theft, drug trafficking, and attack on vulnerable citizens. The budget before us reflects government's continued commitment towards strengthening policing, improving accountability, and rebuilding public confidence in law enforcement institutions. Nationally, the South African Police Services has been allocated approximately 127 billion for the 26-27 financial year, with strong emphasis placed on visible policing, crime intelligence, specialized investigations, and modernization of policing systems. As the Northern Cape welcomes the renewed focus on a professional, ethical, and responsive police service, we further welcome the emphasis placed on strengthening anti-corruption measures within SAPS, improving procurement systems, and enhancing detective and intelligence capabilities. Honorable members, the Northern Cape continues to face unique policing challenges due to its vast geographical landscape, dispersed communities, and long traveling distances between towns and police stations. These realities place enormous pressure on police resources, vehicles, personnel, and response time. Despite these challenges, Honorable Chair, our law enforcement officers continue to serve with dedication under difficult conditions. We acknowledge and appreciate the sacrifices made daily by SAPS members across our province. However, we must also be honest about the concerns raised by communities regarding violent crime, drug-related offences, stock theft, gender-based violence, and crimes against children. Communities want a police service that is visible, disciplined, efficient, and trusted. The recent national focus on rebuilding public trust in policing is therefore both necessary and urgent. Chairperson, the role of the Independent Police Investigation Directorate remains critically important in strengthening accountability and ensuring that misconduct within law enforcement is addressed decisively and without fear or favor. IPID serves as an important safeguard within our constitutional democracy. Communities must have confidence that allegations of abuse of power, corruption, or brutality involving police officers will be investigated independently and professionally. Equally important is the work of the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services in promoting civilian oversight, policing development, and community participation in safety matters. Community policing forums remain an important bridge between law enforcement and society. We therefore support continued investment towards strengthening CPFs and improving their operational capacity. Honorable Chair, the fight against crime cannot be won by government alone. It requires stronger partnerships between communities, law enforcement agencies, municipalities, traditional leaders, religious organizations, civil society, and the private sector. In the Northern Cape, we remain committed to strengthen integrated crime prevention initiatives and community mobilization programs aimed at building safer communities. We must also continue prioritizing the safety of women, children, and vulnerable groups. Gender-based violence and femicide remains a national crisis that demands a united and uncompromising response from all sectors of society. Chairperson, as we support this budget vote, we also call for continued investment in police infrastructure and rural policing, modern technology and crime intelligence, adequate police vehicles and operational resources, training and professionalization of officers, anti-gang and organized crime interventions, victim support services, youth crime prevention programs, and strengthen accountability mechanism within the law enforcement. The people of South Africa deserve a police service that protects acts without corruption and serves with integrity. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, as the Northern Cape, we support the budget vote for SAPS, IPID, and Civilian Secretariat for the police service. Let us continue working together to restore public confidence, to strengthen accountability, and to ensure safer communities for all our people. Achtbare voorsitter, laat ons hande vat as 'n nasie en bid vir ons manne en vrouens in blou, want ons veiligheid is in hulle se hande. En wanneer ons begin bid vir hulle, sal ons sien ons sal vorentoe beweeg om ons land 'n veilige plek te hou. Baie dankie.
Thank you, Honorable Koloi, for your input. The next speaker is also on the visual platform, is Honorable Mathia, the MEC for Transport and Community Safety in Limpopo. For the next 10 minutes. Over to you, Honorable Member.
Honorable Chairperson of the House, let me stand on the protocol that has already been established and say good afternoon. I take this opportunity to welcome the budget votes presented on the 19th of last month under the theme Open Quote, Recent Agenda, Close Quote. Indeed, this theme is both timely and appropriate, as it cannot be business as usual given the multitude of challenges confronting the policing system. As we embark on this recent journey, we must first acknowledge the critical role of forensic evidence in the administration of justice. For many years, our province has faced the significant constraints due to its dependence on the forensic laboratory in Gauteng. This has often resulted in delays that adversely affect case management and the efficient functioning of the criminal justice system. Honorable Chairperson, it is encouraging that a decision has been taken to construct a forensic laboratory in Limpopo. The development bodes well for the expeditious administration of justice and will greatly enhance our province's capacity to process forensic evidence. We are currently engaged in identifying a suitable site for the development of this important facility. As we advance the recent agenda, we must also acknowledge the growing demands for police services to be brought closer to the communities they serve. Many police stations are responsible for vast and densely populated areas, which undermine citizens' access to safety and justice. For example, the Toyando police station serve approximately 487 villages, many of which are located considerable distance from the stations. For communities seeking protections and justice, access often comes at a significant cost, despite the fact that many residents are economically disadvantaged. We therefore call for the establishment of additional satellite stations and fully fledged police stations across the province. Honorable Chairperson, our province remains one of the safest places in the country to live and to conduct business. However, we are concerned that this positive standing may have unintentional unfortunately resulted in Limpopo being overlooked in the allocation of police resources. The province continues to serve relatively few recruits, and if this trend persists, it may compromise our ability to maintain current safety levels and make our communities increasingly vulnerable to crime. In addition, there is an urgent need for more operational resources, particularly police vehicles. Many police stations experience shortages of serviceable vehicles, which negatively affect response times and limit the ability of officers to attend to complaints, emergencies, and community concerns quickly. In rural areas, where communities are spread across vast distances, the availability of reliable vehicles is not merely a matter of convenience, but a critical requirement for effective policing. We therefore call for increased investment in the police vehicle fleet to ensure that South African Police Services members are adequately equipped to respond swiftly to calls for assistance and to maintain a visible policing presence within communities. Honorable Chairperson, gender-based violence and femicide remains a scourge that continues to plague our society. We note with concern that these crimes continue to affect many families and communities. We therefore call upon all sectors of society, including traditional leaders, faith-based organizations, and school governing bodies, and all community structures to make it their collective responsibility to eradicate this heinous crime. We also call for greater sensitivity, compassion, and professionalism from members of the South African Police Services when dealing with victims and survivors of GBVF. There can be no room for informal or family-based resolutions to crimes of this nature. As such, approaches undermines the administration of justice and often allow perpetrators to evade accountability. Honourable Minister, you have our full support as you embark on the path of rebuilding and restoring a system upon which all citizens depend. Safety and security must never become a luxury reserved only for those who can afford private security services. The state remains the primary custodian and guarantee of safety for all citizens, from children to the elderly, including persons with disability. We therefore cannot afford to fail in this critical mandate. We concur with your emphasis in professionalism and discipline within the South African Police Services. Without these fundamental principles, the recent agenda will struggle to achieve these intended outcomes. Despite the challenges, as Limpopo, we continue to have confidence in the men and women in blue as we provide oversight and guidance. Their responsibility rests with them to demonstrate their commitment to protecting all members of the society and to uphold the trust placed in them by the people of South Africa. As Limpopo Honourable Chairperson, we support the 3 budget votes that were passed on the 19th of May 2026. I thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable MEC Mathieu. The next speaker is also on a visual platform, is Honourable Masi from Mpumalanga, the province of the Rising Sun. Over to you for the next 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, House Chair, to the Honourable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Deputy Chair, Honourable Acting Minister, Professor Kachalia, Honourable Deputy Minister, Dr. Olibushela, Honourable Deputy Minister Castle Matal, House Chairperson of the Select Committee on Security and Constitutional Development. Allow me to rise on the protocol that the House has already established. Allow me on behalf of the people and the government of Mpumalanga under the leadership of Premier Madlanga Commission to welcome and support the budget vote of the South African Police Service and Independent Police Investigative Directorate and Civilian Secretariat for Police Service. At the onset, we command the presentation of a budget that speaks directly to the reality confronting our communities. The emphasis on strengthening visible policing, capacitating specialized unit, combating organized crime, improving detective service, enhancing border security, and professionalizing the police service is both timely and necessary. For provinces such as Mpumalanga, which occupy a strategic position as a gateway to the southern region through international border with Mozambique and Eswatini, these interventions are not merely budgetary allocation. They are investment in public safety, economic growth, social stability, and national security. During the month of May, the Premier of Mpumalanga, Madlanga Commission, convened a provincial school safety indaba, which brought together government institutions, law enforcement agency, educators, civil society formation, traditional leaders, and various community stakeholders to confront the growing threat facing our school. A significant outcome of the indaba was the signing of a collective pledge by all stakeholders, including the South African Police Service community, committing themselves to a clarion call made by the Premier that society must reclaim our school from drug dealers and criminal elements who seek to destroy the future of our province and the country by targeting our children and youth. The pledge represents a shared commitment that safety of our learners cannot be left to schools alone, but require the active participation of every sector of society. The involvement of the South African Police Service and its strategic partner in school safety program is informed by a clear objective to ensure that there is no space, no corner, no loophole larger enough for drug dealers and criminal syndicates to operate with impunity. Through coordinated search and seizure operation, intelligence-driven intervention, awareness campaign, and community mobilization, we are steadily tightening the net around those who seek to explore our school as a market for illicit substance. As government, we remain resolute in our determination to intensify collaboration between law enforcement agencies, educators, parents and community structures, civil society organizations to uproot drugs and criminal, not only for our school, but also from our street and communities. The safety of our learners is non-negotiable. Every child deserves to learn in an environment free from fear, intimidation, substance abuse, and criminal influence. By working together, we can ensure that our school remains center of learning, hope, and opportunity, producing the future leaders, professionals, and national builders that South Africa require. Honorable members, the people of our province continue to demand a police service that is responsive, professional, accountability, and capable of confronting increasingly sophisticated criminal network. We are encouraged by the budget seek to strengthen the crime intelligence capabilities and provide resources to law enforcement agencies to stay ahead of organized criminal syndicate. In Mpumalanga, we have witnessed significant successes by our law enforcement agencies. These achievements demonstrate that what can be accomplished when government institutions work together with determination and strategic focus. The recent month police operation in Red Sibande district have dealt significant blow to drug trafficking syndicate operating within our province. Through intelligence-driven operation and coordinated enforcement action, substantial quantities of illicit drugs have been seized, disrupting criminal network that prey on our community and destroy the future of young people. These successes send a clear message that the South African state remains resolute in its fight against drug-related crime and organized criminal enterprise. Equally commendable has been the performance of the SAPS highway patrol operating along the N4 Maputo corridor, one of the busiest economic routes in South Africa. The highway patrol unit has become a critical line of defense against organized crime syndicate involved in vehicle hijacking, cargo theft, human trafficking, drug smuggling, and cross-border criminal activities. Their visible, present, and coordinated operation have resulted in numerous arrests, recovery of stolen vehicle, interception of illicit substance, and the disruption of criminal movement across provincial and international borders. The N4 corridor is not only an economic lifeline for Mpumalanga and South Africa, it is also a strategic route targeted by criminal syndicate. We therefore welcome the continuing investment in specialized policing capabilities that secure the critical economic route. Honorable members, as we celebrate these successes, we must equally confront the challenge that continue to threaten the safety and security of our community. One of the most pressing concerns facing Mpumalanga is the escalating challenge of illegal mining. Illegal mining has evolved beyond law enforcement matters. It has been a sophisticated criminal economy linked to organized crime, environmental destruction, illegal mining, and human trafficking, firearm proliferation, and violent criminal. Areas such as Pilgrim Rest, Babaton, Sabi, Mbombela, and several other parts of the province continue to experience illegal mining activity that undermine legitimate economic development and threaten economic safety. These criminal networks are often heavily armed, high organized, and capable of mobilizing resources that exceed the capacity of ordinary policing intervention. It is for this reason that we respectfully call upon the Honorable Minister, the national government, to seriously consider deployment of the South African National Defence Force in support of law enforcement operation targeting illegal mining hotspot in Mpumalanga. We have, on House Chair, we have recently find out that these legal miners, they are now visiting Kruger National Park, not to view the beautiful park, but to kill the animal, not also to poach rhinos. They kill the animal to feed themselves while they are doing the operation. This successful deployment of the army in other security-related operations has demonstrated the value of a coordinated security cluster response with confronting complex criminal threats. The deployment of the South African Defence Force will significantly strengthen effort to reclaim affected areas, dismantle criminal network, protect strategic infrastructure, and restore public confidence in the ability of the state to assert its authority. The intervention should not be viewed as militarization, but rather as a necessary national security response to an ongoing criminal threat that continue to grow in scale and sophistication. We further welcome the budget allocation to the independent police
Honorable
investigation.
Masi, on that note of welcoming the budget, your time had expired. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you.
Honorable delegates, the next speaker is inside the House, is Honorable Farmer from the Western Cape, the Cape of Storms.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Acting Minister and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, I greet you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. The question on whether South Africans can trust in the institutions responsible for keeping them safe is still to be answered. Chairperson, crime unfortunately remains one of the greatest threats facing our country. It threatens economic growth, investment, families and communities. For many South Africans, crime has become a daily reality rather than an occasional fear. The Patriotic Alliance therefore supports investment in policing because communities deserve visible policing, rapid response times, safer streets, and justice. And quite frankly, Minister, our communities deserve better. But Chairperson, there's a difficult truth we must confront. The fight against crime becomes impossible when corruption enters the very institutions tasked with fighting it. When a police officer accepts a bribe, a criminal gains confidence. When a doctor disappears, a victim loses hope. When information is leaked to gangs before an operation, public trust collapses. When police collude with syndicates and organized crime to transport a member of parliament in the back of a van for more than 1,600 kilometers, whereas others accused of the same crimes are treated differently, the unfortunate question comes to mind, Honourable Minister, how far are we really from a police state? Chairperson, the overwhelming majority of police officers serve honourably. They risk their lives every day and deserve our support. But honest officers are often the biggest victims of corrupt colleagues. Corruption destroys morale and it damages public trust. It undermines investigations and it places honest officers in danger. Therefore, rooting out corruption is not negotiable. Honourable Members, the Patriotic Alliance further recognizes the critical role played by IPID. No democratic country can function without an independent watchdog. IPID exists to ensure accountability. Its independence must never be compromised. No politician, no senior official, no powerful interest should ever be allowed to interfere in an investigation. Chairperson, we must also acknowledge the importance, but often overlooked role of the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service. Without oversight, accountability weakens, public confidence declines, and abuse of power becomes easier. The Secretariat's work must continue to be strengthened. Honourable Members, as a representative from the Western Cape, I cannot speak about policing without speaking about gang violence, extortion, or organized crime, and the unashamed involvement of DA politicians. The raiding of DA officers in the city of Cape Town by police is becoming a new normal. No wonder they are on this campaign for delegated powers to investigate themselves. While entire communities continue to live under the shadow of criminal networks, young people are recruited into gangs, businesses face extortion, families live in fear, residents are trapped between criminals and violence. South Africans are tired of hearing that government has a plan. They want to see criminal networks dismantled, gang leaders behind bars, and communities reclaimed. That is the standard by which success should be measured. Chairperson, at its heart, this debate is about trust. Can South Africans trust the police? Can we trust that corruption will be punished, that misconduct will be investigated, that our families will be protected? These questions matter because trust is the foundation of effective policing. In closing, the Patriotic Alliance support these budget votes, but we do so with high expectations. We expect professional policing, independent oversight, stronger accountability, action against corruption, and safer communities. We expect a policing system that serves the people of South Africa with integrity, courage, and professionalism. Because when citizens trust the police, communities become safer. When communities become safer, opportunities grow. And when opportunities grows, our nation moves forward. Salute.
Thank you, Honourable Farmer, for your participation in the debate. The next speaker is on a visual platform, is Honourable Murueng, the MEC for Community Safety and Transport Management in Bukonibu Pirima. Over to you, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me take this opportunity to greet the Honourable Chairperson, greet the Honourable MECs on the platform, greet the Honourable Deputy Minister Dr. Poli Bushielo, greet the Honourable Deputy Minister, Honourable Castle Matale, and greet the Chief Whip of the National Council of Provinces, all protocol observed in the interest of time. Honourable Chairperson, let me start by saying the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services occupies a unique position within South Africa's safety architecture. It is the institution responsible for ensuring that policing remains accountable to the people of South Africa. It is the institution responsible for policy development and reform. It is the institution responsible for strengthening community participation in safety. It is the institution responsible for driving implementation of integrated crime and violence prevention strategy. And lastly, the institution is responsible for ensuring that crime prevention remains at the center of government's response to crime. Dear Chairperson, we continue expanding responsibilities without strengthening capacity. Our position as the province put us in a situation that need more and continuous monitoring as we find ourselves bordering Botswana. The border is the longest of all our 6 neighbors. It stretches from Namibia border in the west to the Zimbabwean border in the east and is approximately 1,969 kilometers. There are 15 official border crossing sites on this border, which runs from Limpopo via northwest, ends in the Northern Cape. Over 1,000 kilometers of it is in the northwest. Given the above, honourable members, this requires continuous collaboration between national, provincial, and local government institutions. As the Northwest Province, we emphasize on improved intergovernmental coordination to ensure that we strengthen border management and safeguard rural communities, which suffers especially from stock theft. The relationship with Botswana remains cordial, and this reality places pressure on local resources and require coordinated action between immigration authorities, law enforcement agencies, as well as various structures. Rural and farming communities in the province remain particularly vulnerable, and stock theft in particular threatens livelihoods and the agro-economy. Criminal networks often exploit gaps in coordination
between law enforcement, border management, different spheres of government to enter the counter. This, therefore, Honorable Chairperson, shows that we need to strengthen the integrated crime violence prevention strategy, which will assist in aligning crime prevention efforts across departments and improving community safety in border districts. Provincial Secretariat remains a quiet phase of implementation. We are expected to oversee policing. We are expected to support community policing forum. We are expected to coordinate safety partnership. We are expected to monitor service delivery within police stations. We are expected to drive community safety intervention. We are expected to support police stations. We are expected also to facilitate public participation methods, and increasingly, we are expected to support innovative approaches to safety through data-driven intervention. All of this requires resources. All of this requires skilled personnel. All of this requires a properly funded establishment. To enable the above, we need improved information sharing, joint operation, and a stronger cooperation between national and provincial authorities to address these challenges. A coordinated and integrated approach to border management will ensure that safer communities, stronger rural economies, and more effective governance in the border areas. Let me emphasize, honorable members, that as a province, we have limitation as the border management is a national competence. It is, however, important that even within our confinement, the Civilian Secretariat is adequately resources as per each province border demographics. Honorable Chair and honorable members, there is an urgent need to devolve certain functions and decentralize them to provinces to enable Civilian Secretariat to take a lead in some of the intervention. The advantages, therefore, will be expediting decision-making process and improve responsive efficiency. Devolving some responsibilities will allow tailor-made formation of policies which will be more relevant to specific context of our challenges. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, one of the greatest challenges confronting South Africa remains the growing vulnerability of communities residing in informal settlement. These communities often face unique safety risks arising from poor environmental design, inadequate lighting, limited access to routes, and socio-economic vulnerabilities. The Civilian Secretariat has an important role to play in ensuring that safety planning, crime prevention initiatives, and intergovernmental intervention responds directly to this reality. If we are serious about preventing crime, we must be serious about investing in prevention where vulnerability is the greatest. We must recognize the critical contribution made by community policing forums, community safety patrollers, traditional leaders, faith-based organizations, civil society organizations, and many other safety partners who work alongside government every day. This structure strengthens social cohesion. They strengthen trust between communities and law enforcement. They strengthen early intervention and crime prevention. I always say we cannot use the same method and expect different results. The future of community safety will increasingly be shaped by technology. Modern crime prevention requires better information system. It requires data-driven system decision making. It requires integrated safety platform. It requires innovative tools that improve oversight, monitoring, and community engagement. Investment in technology is therefore not a luxury but a necessity if we are to make sure that our community trust us as leaders who continue to change their lives. We need to build a modern, responsive, and effective safety system. As the Northwest Province, we call for continued investment in strengthening institutional and fiscal capacity of the Civilian Secretariat architect across the country. Because when we strengthen the Civilian Secretariat, we strengthen accountability. When we strengthen accountability, we strengthen policing. When we strengthen policing, we strengthen public confidence. And when we strengthen public confidence, we move closer to the safer South Africa that our people deserve. Honorable Chair, if the South African Police Service is the spear in the fight against crime, then the Civilian Secretariat is the institution that ensures that the spear remains accountable, effective, and responsive, and aligned to the constitutional values of our democracy. In conclusion, Chair, as the Northwest, we support this budget vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bukonibu Pirima. The next speaker is supposed to be Honorable M.M. Peter from the province of the Legends. I don't know whether he's ready for participation because I heard that he went to the doctor. Is Honorable Peter on the platform? Can you check? 3, 2. All right, Honorable Peter is not on the platform. So the next speaker is inside the chamber. It is Honorable C. Matale. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Honorable Chairperson of the House, Honorable Khadebe, Honorable Chairperson of NCOP, Natusensha, Manana Refilwe, Tsipanum Tsweni, Acting Minister of Police, Honorable Professor Firoz Kachalia, Deputy Minister Dr. Poli Bushielo, Chairperson of the Select Committee, Honorable Mananiso, and members of the committee, members of the Honorable House, MECs on the platform, heads of entities represented here by the Secretary of the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services, Mr. Sibuyi, and management, Acting National Commissioner, Lieutenant General Dimpani, Acting Executive Director, Dr. Bila, and management, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, afternoon. I rise today with the intention to remind us of something fundamental to our society, the need for civilian oversight and the relationship between those who enforce the law and the public they are sworn to protect. In any democratic society, the police are bestowed with the massive responsibility of ensuring the safety and security of the citizens they serve. For them to effectively execute this responsibility, they are granted enormous powers, including the power to arrest, investigate, detain, and in certain circumstances use force within proportionality provided for by the law. However, with power of this magnitude comes an equal measure of accountability. Our men and women in blue perform an incredible, difficult, and dangerous job, and many of them do so with honor, bravery, selflessness, and dedication. Many of them remain true to their calling and undertaking of creating a safe and secure environment for all people in South Africa. Of course, we have a few
rotten apples that we are continuously dealing with them decisively to ensure that we rid police of these bad elements. In the execution of this calling, there can never be room for unprofessionalism, corruption, misconduct, or lawlessness of any form within the ranks of the police service. We have noted the embarrassing and unacceptable behavior of some of our police officers, and we do not accept such behavior. Police officers who engage in corruption or any form of criminality are criminals. They do not deserve to wear our blue uniform, and they must know that the orange uniform is waiting for them. Honorable members, it is with the recognition of human rights shortcomings that the architect of our constitutional democracy idealistically created civilian oversight mechanisms such as the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service and the Independent Investigative Directorate, amongst others, to maintain checks and balances upon those that have been bestowed with power and responsibility. We had to revolve from a culture where the police were a law unto themselves to one characterized by service delivery and civilian oversight. Civilian oversight is a vital democratic mechanism that ensures law enforcement acts within the law, uses resources efficiently, and fulfills its mandate with integrity and honor by promoting accountability, transparency, independent complaint investigations, and community involvement. Oversight bridges the gap between the police agencies and the public they serve to build much-needed trust. Effective oversight is essential to building trust between the police and the community. When marginalized or frustrated communities see an impartial, independent entity monitoring performance, guiding police service delivery through policies and legislation, reviewing grievances and complaints, it reduces dissatisfaction and hostility towards the police. As part of the Ministry of Police reset agenda, Minister Firoz Kachalia has emphasized the need to increase or rebuild public trust in SAPS, and the strengthening of the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service is at the core of achieving this. Honorable members, oversight goes beyond reacting to individual incidents, as we have seen with the outcomes of the Madlanga Commission and other investigative bodies playing out in the public arena currently. Oversight should allow, for an example, the auditing of training, management practices, departmental policies, identifying root causes of misconduct and corruption before they escalate, and so on. Oversight should assist us to identify red flags and develop mechanisms to counter such. The CSPS is at the center thereof. It plays the critical role of monitoring, evaluating, and advising on policing policy in general. However, as you are aware, recent parliamentary briefings have highlighted a glaring challenge of massive funding shortfalls that the CSPS faces. We cannot mandate the CSPS to drive policy, oversee compliance, assist in professionalizing SAPS, and enhance community partnership if it does not receive the necessary financial support. Parliament must ensure that the CSPS is sufficiently funded to execute its constitutional mandate efficiently and effectively. Chairperson and honorable members, the CSPS continues to maintain a high standard of professional ethics and strive to manage its public funds and resources in an efficient and effective manner as required by the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act. The CSPS continues to strengthen efforts towards executing its mandate even within the limited financial resources. May I hasten to mention that the CSPS has maintained a clean and accountable administration in the past financial years by achieving 5 consecutive clean audit outcomes, which confirm that this budget vote should be supported to enable them to exercise their oversight role consistently and competently. This consistent milestone augurs well for the ecosystem of accountability and is a step in the right direction on the journey of building safer communities and an efficient, accountable police service. The NCOP must therefore support the Civilian Secretariat to instill governance reforms that are urgently required in the entire policing landscape. Honorable members, you cannot be spectators or critics or naysayers. You must support this budget and hold the CSPS to account where it is falling. The bottom line is that we are all in it together. The CSPS leads and coordinates the implementation of the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy and strategic interventions as part of its efforts towards building a safer, ethical, capable, and developmental state. The Cabinet-approved ICVPS remains our guiding principle to address the root causes of crime through a whole-of-government and the whole-of-society approach. The ICVPS will be critical in guiding our collective action towards enhancing safety for the citizens of South Africa, underscoring the need for all stakeholders to fulfill their roles in a coordinated manner in order to address the challenges of crime and violence more holistically. The department continues to work jointly with provinces in conducting research on policing and safety with the aim of improving service delivery and contribute to building safer communities. During the period of 2025-26, research was undertaken for the analysis of the implementation of safety and violence prevention interventions in selected municipalities, and the findings revealed that across provinces and municipalities, safety is increasingly reflected in strategic planning instruments such as provincial and municipal safety strategy. More funding of these safety strategies is indeed for effective implementation. The scourge of gender-based violence and femicide in the country continues unabated, hence the President declared it in late 2025 as a national disaster. In contribution to the fight against this scourge, the department will continue monitoring of the compliance and implementation of the Domestic Violence Act in various police stations in significance and partial compliance level to the DFVA, focusing on assessing 1, the administration of domestic violence at police station level, 2, availability and suitability of private interviewing spaces commonly referred to as victim-friendly facilities, 3rd, the management of non-compliance complaints relating to poor response to GBV-related cases. The department will further conduct docket analysis on stations that are reported to have high numbers of domestic violence cases that are closed and unfunded or unresolved. This will be done as a way of ensuring that GBV victims are given access to justice and are protected from the recurrence of such experiences. Other notable initiatives to be implemented by the CSPS to address the scourge of GBV will include the following: effective implementation of the court watching briefing program, which has led to investigation and administrative challenges being addressed and cases re-enrolled and processed in courts. This program will be accelerated across provinces over the medium term as part of our efforts to address the scourge of GBV in the country. Awareness campaigns to be built in different settlement areas involving various community groupings to educate communities about their right to report GBV and the remedies at their disposal should they become victims. In partnership with organizations like Memeza Shout and Black Women Caucus, the department conducts awareness campaigns at institutions of higher learning and areas identified with high level of GBVF to empower youth and members of the community with tools such as personal alarms and general education about GBVF. Monitoring SAPS implementation of the CSPS database of recommendations remain uppermost in our minds. Therefore, to address the enforceability of CPS recommendation by SAPS, we are reviewing the CPS Act and the SAPS Act, which once enacted by the President will compel the National Commission of the South African Police to respond to CSPS recommendations within a stipulated time frame. Ladies and gentlemen, the Minister has outlined specific priorities for the sector aimed at a national reset agenda for policing and government reforms, including, amongst others, the following: improve crime levels with focus on GBV, reduction of firearm-related crimes, enhance border security, police department entities with strong strategic and management capability, increase public trust in the South African Police Service. And this we are committed to ensure that they happen and they are realized for us to be able to win the fight against crime. We have noted comments made by some members in the House, which I believe also is a reflection of our understanding of what the Constitution says, Chairperson. I want to indicate here today that the Constitution of the Republic, as outlined in its current form, has outlined the role that national must play in the fight against crime and the role of provinces and our local municipalities. There is a misconception that our Constitution does not allow provinces to play their role. Hence, MEC Marais was saying that the province of the Western Cape has decided to stand so that they do something about crime. The Constitution, MEC, is very explicit with regard to the role of provinces on the fight against crime and how they relate with the provincial commissioner of the province. The provincial commissioner is accountable to the provincial legislature and to the provincial executive on his performances of his duty, and is expected to table a report to the provincial legislature. And if the provincial legislature is not comfortable with the conduct of the provincial commissioner, they have, Chair, through you, the power and the authority to can act accordingly in this regard. It's a concurrent responsibility that the province and municipalities must work together in the fight against crime. It is within the Constitution. We must just apply the Constitution as currently it is formulated for us to fight crime. We don't need any special arrangement in this regard. Honorable DM, on the spirit of working together, your time expires.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity.
Honorable delegates, the next speaker on the podium is going to be Honorable M. Billy, the delegate from KwaZulu-Natal. Disrupt my delegate here.
Thank you, House Chair, for protecting me. Thank you for protecting me, House Chair.
Obido, let us not disrupt Honorable Billy from the province of the rickshaws, please.
Thank you, House Chair. Greetings to the Acting Minister, the Deputy Ministers present, and to the fellow South Africans. Let me take this opportunity and congratulate the leader of the DA, who's currently meeting with His Majesty King, Mrs. Zwelithini, today. Chairperson, as this debate draws to a close, we must ask ourselves a simple question. Will this budget make South Africans safer? A lot has been said about these budgets, plans and targets. Some parties support while others oppose it. And those who oppose it, if you look carefully, they have convicted criminals amongst themselves. And perhaps they are opposing to weaken our criminal justice systems. But the fight against crime can never be reduced to politics, honorable members, because every one of us has a duty to ensure that the resources we appropriate today translate into safer communities across South Africa. So that we can catch criminals, convict them, and clean up. Chairperson, Honorable Farmer, Suppose South Africa is a country, I suppose South Africa is a country of second chances. But a second chance is not the same as monopoly on wisdom about policing or crime. In recent weeks, I conducted oversight visits to SAPS stations in KwaZulu-Natal, including Inanda, Phoenix, Durban Central, and Plenary. What I found should concern every member of this House, especially as Inanda, Durban Central, and Phoenix are in the top 10 worst crime hotspots in South Africa. Honorable Acting Minister, at these stations, detectives are carrying impossible workloads. In some instances, detectives are responsible for between 180 to 400 case dockets each. In Inanda alone, there are approximately 1,300 murder cases under investigation currently. In Plesislia, in Pietermaritzburg, more than 700 murder cases remain under investigation currently. Chairperson, no matter how dedicated our detectives may be, there's no criminal justice system that can function effectively under such pressure. The consequence is simple. Justice delayed becomes justice denied. Victims wait longer, families wait longer, criminals remain free for longer. The challenge does not end. So during these oversight visits, detectives repeatedly raised concerns about delays in forensic reports, ballistic testing, toxicology results, and post-mortem reports. We also found severe resource constraints, including detectives without access to basic equipment needed to perform their duties effectively. One of the most disturbing findings emerged during my visit to Plesislia in Pietermaritzburg. It was revealed, Honorable Acting Minister, that during an industrial action in 2021 by the workers from the Department of Health in the province, hundreds of post-mortem records for the Pietermaritzburg district were destroyed. More than 100 were linked to Plesislia investigations alone, while over 500 records across the district were reportedly lost and can never be reconstructed, affecting murder cases being investigated. If confirmed, this is not merely an administrative failure. It is a betrayal of victims and families who deserve justice. Acting Minister, during my oversight program, I also paid a courtesy visit to the family of Sergeant Madlanga Commission, a crime intelligence officer who was killed by criminals while serving his country. I sat with his mother. I looked into the eyes of a woman carrying unimaginable pain. Her sadness was overwhelming. She spoke not as a politician, not as an official, but as a mother who lost her only son. Chairperson, when we debate this budget, we must remember that behind every statistic is a human being. Behind every police fatality is a grieving family. Behind every murder docket is a victim whose life mattered. Sergeant Kuzawa's death is a reminder that our police officers are also victims of crime. They cannot fight criminals effectively if they are not supported, equipped, and protected. And this is why the continued delay in rolling out police body-worn cameras is deeply concerning, Honorable Acting Minister. For years, government has promised modern policing, yet police officers continue to operate without technology that can protect them to improve accountability and strengthen evidence collection. Honorable Minister, trust is not restored through speeches. Trust is not restored when murder dockets move. Trust is not restored when forensic reports arrive on time. Trust is restored when criminals are convicted. Trust is restored when police officers return home safely. And as the DA, we support professional, capable, and accountable police service. We support stronger detective services. We support modern technology, including the urgent rollout of police body-worn cameras. We'll continue to use every oversight mechanism available to expose failures, demand accountability, and ensure that neither victims of crime nor fallen police officers are forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Pili, for your participation. The next speaker on the podium is going to be Honorable Pinue from the Free State.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Before I present, let me indicate that I'm standing here mourning the passing of my king, Makhosonke II, who passed on today, and all the Delegates are mourning. May his soul rest in peace. I also want to, Chairperson, recognize Honorable Farmer. Every time he stands here, he calls on all the mighty. And I think he does that on behalf of this House, and we must acknowledge that. Chair, the ANC welcomes the 2026-2027 police budget allocation across votes 21, 24, and 28, because it is directly in line with the ANC commitments to declare war against crime and keep our houses and streets safe, Honorable Mukai. And we do so while taking into account the outcomes of Madlanga Commission. And every speaker that stood here made reference to Madlanga Commission. And that by itself demonstrates how the President and the Executive is seriously taking crime seriously, especially in the SAPS. Crime in South Africa cannot be understood or effectively addressed without acknowledging the complex socio-economic conditions that underpin it. During our provincial engagement, it has become clear that crime is driven by a combination of poverty, unemployment, inequality, social exclusion, substance abuse, gender equality, and weak social cohesion. These conditions continue to create an environment in which crime and violence thrive. At the same time, we also see broader social concerns raised in communities, including moral decay of society, the prevalence of single-parent households, and the weakening of family structures. We believe that the requisite resources should be directed to the restoration of society and the family structure. Civil society organizations, which are meant to give a voice to the voiceless, are also under financial strain. Instead of an inclusive focus on both victims and perpetrators of crime are often excluded from education and advocacy campaigns. And who are these perpetrators? It is these men whom we are part of dominating in this house. And it is upon our responsibility to look at ourselves and reflect as to what have we become as men. And they represent a significant challenge of civil society organization strategies aimed at reducing crime in community initiatives. We believe that more needs to be done to educate and raise awareness with those persons who are potentially responsible for the crimes as well. It is therefore imperative that sufficient funding is directed towards restoring communities and ensuring that SAPS works collaboratively with the Department of Social Development, communities and civil society organizations to address these underlying issues. For this reason, we welcome government's continued commitment to the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy. The ICVPS correctly recognizes that sustainable reductions in crime cannot be achieved through law enforcement alone, but require a whole government and a whole of society response that addresses both symptoms and the root causes of crime. We believe that success of this strategy will depend on effective implementation and meaningful collaboration across all spheres of government. Crime prevention cannot be left solely to the police. It requires partnerships with communities, schools, civil society organizations, municipalities, the private sector, and other government departments, including political parties. It is quite disturbing that often when political parties stand here and contribute to the debate, the South African society has come to accept that there are those who have become delinquents and there are those who have become scavengers. These who have become delinquents, they expect government to do more without nothing. They make presentations of what government must do. They make a list and it's MKP and EFF. He has run away. Honorable Kharik. But at the end of it, they don't support the budget. I don't know how do they expect government to have their annual performance plan and budget, but be unable to implement what they are suggesting here. And these ones who have become scavengers, instead of doing an oversight, he has run away, Honorable Godson. He goes all around, not attending sessions, not attending committee meetings, scavenging mistakes or where he will think he will put them on the ANC. Instead of telling her his own MECs sitting right next to her, he is calling upon the ANC about the problems of crime in the Western Cape. And the ANC is not plugged in each and every crime that has been committed. The ANC has got a program through the minister and the department they are implementing it. And the Western Cape is not a country. It's just but a province within a country. While prevention remains critical, law enforcement continues to play an essential role in stabilizing communities affected by levels of crime and violence. We note SAP's continued implementation of Operation Channel 1 and 2, which seeks to address violent crime through intelligence-led multidisciplinary operations in identified hotspot areas. This operations bring together visible policing. And what they did, Chairperson, before I forget, because he's back, Honorable Godson, he wants to deny that DA is practicing racial discrimination in the Western Cape against black people. And the highest of it was to demonstrate it. In Gauteng, they have been having mayors, black people, who failed. Now they are flying the Mrs. Madam to go and stand as a mayor in Gauteng. That shows how they disrespect white people. While indicators provide important insight into operational performance, assist in evaluating impact of interventions such as Operation Chanela. At the same time, we believe that policing effectiveness cannot be measured solely through operational output. Greater attention should also be paid to the quality of police leadership. Yes, Chair.
Honorable Kosel, on what outstanding?
I would just like to know if the member is prepared to take a question.
Honorable Nuwe, are you prepared to take it?
Nothing.
Of course not. Too scared.
I have no time for people to go in and out of the house.
Tell us where the dogs are. Tell us where the dogs are.
This is where the oversight role of Civilian Secretariat for Police Service becomes particularly important. We observe that the CSPS continues to assess police leadership, management, and operational effectiveness through police station assessment, compliance inspection, monitoring of community complaints, and evaluations of accountability mechanisms. At station level, attention is given to high police crime stations and areas where persistent weakness have been identified. Chairperson, one of the most pressing challenges facing our nation remains gender-based violence and femicide. Importantly, out of this, we recognize the continued implementation of the GBVF action plan, which is aligned to the National Strategic Plan of GBF and focuses on prevention and professionalism. The Select Committee on Security and Justice recognizes that addressing GBF requires coordinated action across government and society. Therefore, Chairperson, I would like to, I've got a lot prepared here. I see the time is running out. The committee knows that most direct allocation towards GBVF intervention is the 1.62 billion allocated to the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences units. The FCS units remain a cornerstone of SAPS response to gender-based violence, sexual offences and crimes against children. These specialized units play a critical role in ensuring that victims receive professional support, that perpetrators are brought to justice. And Chairperson would like to make following recommendations as a committee: that SAPS should submit a written turnaround plan to reduce forensic and sexual offence investigation backlogs, including interventions to improve investigation efficiency. And Deputy Minister Bushielo addressed this. CSPS should strengthen monitoring and oversight of SAPS implementation of Domestic Violence Act, including ensuring compliance with legislative obligations, providing mandatory GBVF-related training for SAPS members, submitting a progress report within 3 months of adoption of the report that the committee is processing. Finally, Chair, the committee also encourages continued support to community policing forums, community safety structures, and awareness campaigns that empower communities to become participants in crime prevention. Chairperson, the ANC supports the budget vote: 28 for SAPS, 21 for CSPS, and 24 for IPID. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Pito Nue, for your participation in the debate. Honorable delegates, that concludes the debate. No, listen. Don't rush. No. On the side of the delegates, the lineup, the list is concluded. Now, what must happen is that the minister has listened carefully. I was looking at him carefully to what the nation was saying here in front of us here. Is that the minister, the people have spoken. We have heard the challenges and the successes which your department has achieved. Also, at a personal level, I'd like to appreciate the fact that you raise your hand to avail yourself to take up this thankless task. So that's how I'll give you the chance to go and respond to them.
Indeed, I have listened, Honourable Chair, very carefully to the contributions of members of all parties from all provinces, which also underline the importance of the NCOP as a vehicle for dealing with the challenges that we face with respect to community safety across the country. I believe that the country is in a critical moment when we can turn this crisis into an opportunity to reset policing on a new path. And I think that it's clear from this debate that there's an emerging consensus around that reset and reform agenda. I think Mr. Van den Berg was absolutely correct that we have structural problems in the South African Police Service that need to be addressed as part of this reset agenda. Strengthening detective services, CI, forensic laboratories. Clearly, this all needs attention. Secondly, the issues that the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Member Mamaniso, stressed about professionalization, fighting corruption, consequence management. Nobody observing what is happening in policing in this country under the leadership of the ministry can have failed to recognize that there's an accountability agenda which is unfolding with dramatic implementation over the last few months. Anybody with any sense of objectivity and honesty will recognize that the accountability agenda is being implemented. There is also agreement that as part of that oversight, that reset agenda, the oversight mechanisms, civilian oversight, IPID, which was part of the original vision of the Constitution, that vision needs to be restored. We must strengthen civilian oversight and we must strengthen IPID. And I believe this budget reflects the first baby steps in that direction. Next, I think it's very clear that provincial and local governments have a critical role to play in the fight against crime and to improve community safety. We can have a conversation, Member Marais, about what that role should look like. But we've been having this conversation that I've been working with your Premier, whose heart is in the right place, and with the Mayor, whose commitment to working in this collaborative way, I have personally no doubts about. Next, I think there has to be a consensus around community policing and what needs to be done. The Civilian Secretariat is working on a set of proposals, including the funding of patrollers, for instance, providing support for community policing forums. Provincial governments must contribute funds to this project. They have done it in the Western Cape in some form. They've done it in Gauteng in some form. There is no reason why provincial budgets can't make an allocation for patrollers. And I have to say that, what the model we're working on is some form of matching funding, because there are national programs that I believe can be utilized for this purpose. And from my point of view, and I want to say that to the Civilian Secretariat, because I haven't yet received a proposal that clarifies exactly what we're going to do, and I'm impatient. For me, this is a non-negotiable area. We have to fund community policing as a fundamental pillar of our response to the crisis of safety and security, to restore a sense of community agency, participation of communities in shaping their own destiny. It's not an add-on. So I am waiting for that proposal. The modernization project, several members...
Honorable Minister, as I said that I appreciated your raising of the hand to doing that. But on the note of modernization, your time had expired exactly there. So your time has expired. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you very much. May I say, honorable members, that I was hoping I would have an opportunity. This is not part of my speech. This is a gratuity, if you like. I wanted to... Who are you, sir?
Honorable Minister.
Very rude. Very rude, man.
Honorable Minister, your time has expired. Please. Honorable delegates, that totally concludes the debate. I would like to thank the acting minister and the deputy ministers of police for participating in the debate. Honorable delegates, will now go to the fourth, fifth, and others. And then I'd like to call the Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee on Security and Justice, Honorable Manalisha, to present the three reports. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me start by actually appreciating the work of the committee and members of the Select Committee for always making sure that we follow through the work that we are supposed to be doing. In terms of the report that we'll be reading, members, please note that the report has been 80 seats for different magistrates on the basis that it's different misconduct. So, but for now, we're going to read them simultaneously on the basis that on the order paper, we have been lobbied that we must read them simultaneously so that we cannot be taken to court on other matters. So with regards to this report, the Select Committee on Security and Justice was briefed on the 25th March 2026 on the three magistrates. The Magistrates Commission reported that it had received resignation from Regional Magistrate Bodlani, District Magistrate Vakalisa, District Magistrate Beton. The magistrate was charged in 2020 with imposing inappropriate sentencing in sexual offences matters and misconduct. This one is Magistrate Bodlani. Racial remarks in an email against acting regional court president and derogatory remarks against an accused. Inappropriate sentences were imposed on accused persons convicted on sexual offences against children, where the prescribed minimum sentence is life imprisonment. Ms. Bodlani imposed sentences where the accused were either cautioned or strongly reprimanded or wholly suspended, incompetent and incomplete sentences. She refused to comply with instructions from the acting regional court president. A progress report dated 30 September 2025 was referred to Parliament on the 10th November 2025. Magistrate Bodlani subsequently resigned from office on the 31st December 2025. Fellow South Africans and fellow members, you must follow through the modus operandi of what we are dealing with as the committee. District Magistrate Vakalisa, in June 2021, Magistrate Vakalisa was temporarily redeployed to Pietermaritzburg Magistrate Court for health and personal reasons. She was formally instructed in June 2024 to return to Isakini Magistrate Court with effect from 1st September 2024. Ms. Vakalisa refused to comply with repeated lawful instructions to return to Isakini and performed no judicial work from the 1st September 2024 onwards, while continuing to receive full remuneration. In November 2024, the magistrate lodged a formal complaint with the Magistrates Commission regarding Ms. Vakalisa's refusal to return to duty at Ezakini Magistrate Court after a temporary deployment to Pietermaritzburg Magistrate Court. District Magistrate Vakalisa resigned with effect from 23 February 2026. District Magistrate Beaton, the Magistrate Commission charged Ms. Beaton with misconduct on the 13th June 2023. The charges related to a failure to deliver 11 reserved civil judgment over an extended period. These judgments were outstanding from June 2018 to September 2021. On the 30th of July 2025, Ms. Beaton was given specific directive to complete all her outstanding judgment on or before 22 August 2025. On the 6th October 2025, the presiding officer noted that this outstanding judgment had not been delivered. He made a finding of serious misconduct. District Magistrate Beaton resigned with effect from 27 February 2026. The resignation were duly accepted by the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Development, and the magistrates are therefore no longer employed by the state. The committee noted the resignation of the three magistrates. The committee noted its satisfaction with progress made by the Magistrate Commission in respect of the speed with which they are attending to disciplinary matters and reporting to Parliament. The committee noted that magistrates who were facing misconduct charges and the prospect of their remuneration being withheld were now choosing to resign. The committee also expressed its dissatisfaction as well with the increase in the number of recommendations to withholding the remuneration of magistrates found to be guilty of misconduct charges, and this will decrease the burden to the taxpayers. The committee looks forward to a review of legislation and to the collaboration approach being implemented by the Commission in addressing disciplinary matters. The committee continues to encourage the magistrates to perform their duty with the highest ethical standard, strongly discourages all acts of misconduct within this magistracy. With this report, Chairperson, you can note that some of the case was reported by the Chief Magistrate. So we want to encourage everybody who is within this space that they must liberate ourselves from the abuse of taxpayers by ensuring that they bring everyone who is conducting himself or herself unethical, who is doing the injustice in terms of these particular services, to be brought to book. So we want to thank everybody and members of the Select Committee for continuously bringing this matter to Honorable Kotzel and Honorable Nonkonyane, based on their previous background of being on, even the current, of being part of the judiciary. They are always lamenting and indicating to us that we must deal with repetitive offenders and make sure that we uphold the standard of the Constitution and what needs to be done by the magistracy in our society. So we believe in this matter as well, that when justice is denied, is justice delayed, regardless of whether it's which level or which race. So we are the Select Committee at work that would want to make sure that everybody understands that upholding the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is not a choice, but it's a mandatory obligation that all of us, we must make sure that we have unethical or unquestionable characters as we do this work. So this is the report that we would want you to consider as the NCOP. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mananiso, for the three reports you have just presented now. Honorable Delegates, as she said that we're having three different misconduct reports. We are going to start with order number 4, which deals with the report on Ms. L. Vagalisa, the Additional Magistrate and Head Office Ezakeni. So we are going to vote per province. Is there any province which want to make any declaration at this point? Western Cape?
No, Chair, thank you.
Northwest?
No, Chair.
Northern Cape?
No, Chair.
Mpumalanga?
Nothing.
Limpopo?
No, Chairperson.
KwaZulu-Natal?
No declaration.
Gauteng?
Nothing to declare, House.
All right. Free State?
No declaration, Chair.
Thank you. Eastern Cape?
No declaration, Chair.
Thank you. Noting that there are no declarations from all the provinces, now we'll proceed to the voting part. The heads of delegations will vote on behalf of the provinces. They'll either vote in favor, against, or abstain. I'll start with the Western Cape.
The Western Cape will vote in favor, Chair.
Thank you. Northwest?
Northwest will vote in favor, sir.
Thank you. Northern Cape?
Oh, Chair, thanks. North Cape will support.
Thank you. Mpumalanga?
Impumalanga iyayisekela le report.
Thank you. Limpopo?
Thank you, Chair. Limpopo support.
Thank you. KwaZulu-Natal?
House Chair, the province of KwaZulu-Natal supports.
Thank you. Gauteng?
House Chair, the province of Gauteng supports their home goal.
Thank you. Free State?
The state vote in favor, Chair.
Thank you. Eastern Cape?
Eastern Cape, the home of legends, support the report.
Thank you. Eastern Cape, noting that all the provinces has voted in favor of the report on order number 4. So the report is accordingly adopted by the House. It becomes the report of the House. Now we go to order number 5. Order number 5 is dealing with the report on Ms. A. Patton from Ekabeja. Is there any province which want to make any declaration before we take to voting? 1, 2, 3, none. Now we are going to vote per province. The heads of delegation will either vote in favor, against, or abstain. I'll start again with the Western Cape.
We support, Chair.
Thank you. Northwest?
Northwest vote in favor, Chair.
Thank you. Northern Cape?
Thank you, Chair. We are in support.
Thank you. Mpumalanga?
Honorable Chairperson, Mpumalanga province voting for.
Thank you. Limpopo?
Honorable Chair, the province of Africa in support.
Thank you. KwaZulu-Natal?
House Chairperson, isifundazwe saKwaZulu-Natal siyawaseka.
Thank you. Gauteng?
House Chairperson, Gauteng supports.
Gauteng is a gold, where there's gold. And then Free State?
State, the province of Food Basket, supports.
Thank you. Eastern Cape? Thank you, Eastern Cape. Noting that all the provinces has voted in favor of the report, so the report is duly adopted as the report of the House. Now we go to the 6th order. The 6th order is dealing with the report on Ms. K. Podlani, the regional magistrate from Umlazi in KwaZulu-Natal. Is there any province which want to make any declaration? 3, 2, 1, 0, none. So now the heads of delegations will vote on behalf of the provinces. They either vote in favor, against, or abstain. I'll start with the Eastern Cape this time.
Eastern Cape supports them.
Thank you. The Free State? Skaroba.
Free State.
Thank you. Gauteng.
Gauteng supports.
Thank you. KwaZulu-Natal.
The province of KwaZulu-Natal supports the report.
Thank you. Limpopo.
The province of Limpopo support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mpumalanga.
The province of Mpumalanga voting.
Thank you. The Northern Cape.
Thank you, Chair. Very consistent. We are in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Northwest.
Northwest we support, Chair.
Thank you. Western Cape.
The Western Cape supports, Chair.
No, thank you. Noting that all the provinces have voted in favor of the report, so the report becomes a report of the House or of the Chamber. Honorable delegates, that concludes the debate. I would like to thank the acting minister and the deputy ministers, all permanent delegates, MECs, and all other special delegates and Saraga representatives for availing themselves for the city. Honorable delegates, that concludes the episode of the day. The House is adjourned.
Recording stopped.